Chapter 19. With Creepdick's hand at my throat, I was held firmly in place, and I couldn't get a word out in my defense.
Someone has ransacked my chambers already. Many potions and poisons are missing.
With a great effort, I managed to gasp,
"Not here to steal."
"That's right," Creepdick said lovingly. "You are here to be caught. Dear boy, I train assassins in the shadowy arts. No scavenger could hope to outwit me."
"Not trying to."
"Don't worry, Zoran,"
Ellie said.
"He's harmless, really."
"Harmless?"
My hand struggled uselessly against him.
"Whom do you speak to?"
Creepdick said, drawing the knife up against my cheek, the metal ice cold.
"Please tell me you are mad. I should like to crack open your skull and study the ruins inside."
He squeezed tighter at my throat, and my health bar started ticking down.
"Not mad,"
I struggled.
"Spire in danger."
"What drivel is this?"
Ellie cut in.
"Mention High Kross."
Wishing I could ask her to explain, I took my best guess at her meaning.
"Enemies,"
I wheezed.
"Emperor, taken. Marshal High Kross sent me."
"High Kross?"
Creepdick said, eyes widening. Evidently, the torturer feared the chief intelligence officer.
"Why would he send a lowly scavenger to deliver such news?"
"Because everyone else is dead."
Creepdick let go of me. I gulped in air before descending into choked coughs as pain throbbed in my neck.
"I shall discover the truth of this for myself,"
Creepdick said. In a puff of sour white smoke, he disappeared, vanishing as a result of some ability. I thought I heard footsteps in the corridor beyond, running at speed back the way I had come. "Where's he going?"
"He's heading up to the throne room."
Ellie informed me. "But what if he's seen?" At once, I pulled out my map. To my horror, the 3 players Ellie had warned of had arrived on the ground floor. After the initial shock, I realized they were standing guard outside the armory, just as Azrael had warned. I felt a pang at the loss of such a bountiful resource. Still, so long as Creepdick didn't venture down that way, it wouldn't be a total disaster.
"He's a master of stealth. He'll be fine."
They killed him before.
"When he wasn't expecting danger."
This is so weird. A piece of you controls him, yet you don't have any actual influence over his actions.
"Not in my current state,"
Ellie said glumly. I rubbed at my neck, concerned that I'd lost a sanctuary. It would have been useful to pick up more slime, but I doubted Creepdick would be all too happy with me pilfering from his cauldron.
"Let's make use of our time while he's gone."
Ellie said in a cheerful tone.
"You can pick your class specialization, too."
"Oh, fantastic. That'll make me forget about everything. A nice spec choice." Inside, I was still quite excited to see what I had to choose from, but the stubborn side of me didn't feel like admitting it to her. Opening my character sheet, I saw there was a new tab helpfully labeled Specialization. Delving into it, I saw that after I picked my preferred spec tree, I would have access to a broad perk choice every 10 levels within that tree. At a glance, they seemed to fall into one of 3 variations: a combat spec, a crafting spec, or an economic spec. The latter choices I assumed were there for those who planned to go down the merchant route. Indeed, the very first choice along this route made this evident. Trader. You shrug off a life of the wilds and adventure for the comfort of a city, fine inns, and good coin. You'll lose your edge, but you'll no longer be seen as a vagabond either, so that's nice. Experience gain from crafting items increased by 25%. Will unlock skill Haggle. Will receive Merchant Skilled Tabard. Attack power is reduced by 30%. This would be ideal for someone planning on staying mostly in the city markets, crafting and trying to make money, like I had planned to do. But in my current predicament, I wasn't so sure. The extra experience from crafting was tempting, but I'd lose a chunk of offensive power, and I had so little as it was. I checked my other choices. Scrapper. Some scavengers are happy to take the leavings of others, but not you. Having others fight for you was never quite your style. Weapons made or upgraded by you will be 25% more powerful. Attack power increased by 20%. Constitution increased by 20%. Though it had no drawbacks, I knew from my research that everyone considered this spec a bit of a joke. Scavengers were still so poor in combat, lacking a range of abilities. Then again, my situation was unique. Getting a bonus to my crossbow might prove invaluable, and I'd get improved survivability from the health increase. My final choice related specifically to crafting. Inventor. The workshop calls to you. The spanner over the sword. Honing your abilities, you require minimum concentration to deconstruct and assemble items, lending more thought to your next contraption. Mana cost of crafting reduced to 1%. Mana cost of breakdown reduced to 1%. Mana cost of tinkering reduced to 1%. All items created and upgraded by you will be 5% more powerful. I bit my lip, hesitating. In the end, I went with my gut and picked Inventor. The reduction of mana for crafting and breakdown meant that I wouldn't have to worry again about regenerating enough, like just before the ambush, and the fact that everything I'd make, not only the weapons, would have a power bonus was simply too useful to me. I'd surely make more traps before the end, and having them be a touch stronger might be the difference between life and death.
Good choice.
Ellie said.
I'd say let's move on to tinkering, but Cryptic is about to return.
Her timing was impeccable. The torturer reappeared in the room in a whirl of a dark cloak, seeming to unfold from the air itself. He looked breathless, shaken even, having likely used every ability he had to move with such haste.
It is true, he said. The Marshal is vanquished.
Mouth agape, Cryptic allowed this development to settle upon him, testing how it fitted. It appeared he found it favorable, for he smiled widely again.
The Emperor is yet alive, you say?
He is. For now, I added ominously. Though his captor has threatened his life. I saw it through a vision he sent me. Cryptic eyed me.
Strange that a lowly scavenger should be so wrapped up in these events.
A half-baked excuse rose to my mouth, but the torturer silenced me with a cold finger against my lips.
Strange? Yet many adventurers come to me with incredible tales. I wonder now, Zorin, what yours is.
Without stopping to think, I began to gush out my story of the previous night in a style that would suit his understanding of how this world, his world, worked. I was a traveler from a far-off land, intending to visit the great city of Argatha. I found mercenary work from the mayor of Rusking to help cover my expenses, and from there had been sent to deliver a message to the Marshal. Cryptic was particularly engaged on the topic of the attack and how Marshal Kross had fallen. Sensing this was a way to score some points with the torturer, I embellished my memory of how the bat creature clawed savagely at the Marshal's face as he cried in pain. Like a little girl, I added. For a moment I thought I'd gone too far, but Cryptic chuckled appreciatively, and I carried on. Before I was shoved into the safe room, Kross told me I should seek you out. He said you would know the best way to secure the Emperor's safety. The sole member of my audience looked eager for a riveting conclusion, but I felt the climax of my story wilt like a flower placed in vinegar. And so here I am, I ended lamely. Cryptic stroked his goatee, his eyes glazing over. I could almost hear the wheels spinning in his mind.
You say this villain we face sent you word of the Emperor's imprisonment through a vision? Be he mage or warlock? No, more likely he is a shaman to be sending visions.
Does it matter?
It matters a great deal, you scrawny boy.
Hey, you're not exactly ripped yourself. He raised the knife again.
Such gall might have seen you through the hell of a scrap I saw upstairs, but it won't get you far with me. I seek the truth, boy, through whatever means necessary.
All right. I tried backing away, but soon bumped into the torture table in the middle of the room and could go no farther. The site where Cryptic extracted his truths. Our enemy is called Azrael, and he's none of those magic users you mentioned. He's a Death Knight. Is that a problem?
Possibly. Pray tell, where does he hail from?
I said stupidly. What the hell did that matter?
He's asking what race Asriel is.
Ellie said. Undead. Asriel is undead.
Curses, hissed Creeptic. I suppose it was only a matter of time before such a servant of the Dark Council came to blight the Spire. He cannot be harmed like mortals.
I'm certain he can be killed.
Indeed. Burn an undead or cut off the head and it won't come back again.
So, what's the issue?
Do I look like I command fire or a warrior capable of dueling and beheading? He said, advancing upon me again. My ways are in the quiet corners, the slow, methodical stripping of spirit until I get what I want.
He raised the knife. I flinched, not even attempting to prevent it from falling, but Creeptic slammed it into the wood of the table behind me.
Poisons and knives, boy.
Watching the knife shudder where it stuck fast in the wood, I gulped again.
Eyes on me,
Creeptic said. I did as instructed, taking in this rake of a man. He was as terrifying a person as I'd ever met. His every move teetered on the edge of violence, an experience I'd only found before in the campus drunks looking to provoke a fight. Whatever part of Ellie that was able to control NPC behavior could win Oscars. It was clear that Creeptic enjoyed every moment of it, getting off as much on someone's fear as when they were actually in pain.
Knives, he continued, don't frighten the dead much. They cannot feel, nor do poisons give them pause, for there is no pulse to carry it to their hearts.
There is a way.
Ellie whispered.
Tell him that Grand Crusader Reginald yet lives.
I stuttered. I believe the Grand Crusader Reginald is still alive? I realized then where I'd heard that name before, during the communication Asriel had just sent me. One of the paladins had spoken out, and the Emperor had called him Reginald.
You're sure?
Creeptic asked. Yes, I said firmly this time. I saw him in the vision Asriel sent me. Many of the Emperor's guard are still with him.
Then all is not yet lost.
The torturer swept past again in a whirl of his cloak, heading for the nearest apothecary table. Upon it was a huge tome in a language evidently not English, and he began flicking through the pages. After a moment, he landed on his desired entry and muttered under his breath.
Yes, there is hope left.
Creeptic turned, frowning at me.
So long as the Grand Crusader remains alive, and he can be reached. But if that is your task...
I'll figure out a way, I said. I'm quite resourceful. Lived this long.
You'll have a chance to prove yourself first. This potion requires a number of particularly exotic ingredients.
I looked to the highly exotic ingredients floating in sickly yellow liquid in jars upon the shelves. Eyeballs the size of eggs the size of fists. I'm guessing you don't have these items lying around?
If only,
Creeptic said with a roll of his eyes.
Kross believed them to be too deadly. He didn't like the idea of me having the means to take him out over breakfast. His loss in the end, it would have been less painful. But there has been occasion before to create batches of this venom in secret. Adventurers like you come looking for this reason or that. They help me, and I help them too, so to speak.
I sensed where this was going. A quest. So where do I find them?
Generally, I leave it to the adventurer to procure them. But you're far weaker than those who usually come looking for this concoction, so I'll give you a few extra tips. Cinderflake can be procured from the nests of dragonlings in the blood sands. The creature's leavings produce hot and fertile soil. Black moss can be sought from the dread tunnels of the ancient dwarvish realms. Fingerweed is most common in the dusky woods south of the dark elf territories. Tread carefully, for werewolves inhabit there, and the soul of a newborn vampire can be acquired by venturing forth into the nightmare plane, though your sanity may not return. The remainder of the list ought to be straightforward.
He passed me a short list of neatly scribed herbs and their quantities. I took it, utterly dumbfounded. Where to even begin explaining this to him would be impossible. Surely there had to be a better way. Creeptic began laughing, a cruel titter.
The pained look on your face, boy. Quite joyful. Ah.
He sighed, wiping at his eye.
I was joking about the vampire soul, though I shall need those other rare herbs.
I laughed as well, though nervously. This was still impossible.
Don't worry,
Ellie said.
I know a way.
Relief rushed to fill me from head to toe. You always do, don't you? Creeptic arched an eyebrow.
Talking to yourself? Are you quite sure you're not mad?
Quite sure.
More is the pity. Well, you have your quest now. Begone.
Creeptic made a shooing motion and turned his back on me. The official quest text followed. Quest accepted. A long road to a quick death. Elite. Interrogator Creeptic of the Imperial Spire has agreed to provide the deadly venom you seek. He'll require many materials, and it might be worth grouping up to fetch them. Recommended minimum level, 50. Recommended group size, 5 players. Objectives. Bring the following ingredients to Interrogator Creeptic. Cinderflake, 0 out of 1. Black moss, 0 out of 1. Fingleweed, 0 out of 1. Witherweed, 0 out of 5. Snapper saw, 0 out of 5. Bile blossom, 0 out of 5. "Wanna give me a hint here, Ellie?" I whispered as quietly as I could.
Sure.
She began, sounding positively cheerful.
This quest is designed to be extremely hard and time-consuming. It's meant for level 50 rogues, after all, with lots of mini-boss encounters.
I placed my face into both my palms, shaking my head.
But what most players don't have is access to the upper levels of the Spire, nor would they have free reign if they did. But Asriel's highest-level players mopped up most of the NPCs again before he recalibrated in the wake of your attack.
Are you saying there's somewhere in the Spire that I can find all of this stuff?
Your conclusion is correct. The Archmage has guest quarters here on the 5th level, with all the amenities that he'd need if he were in his own lodgings in the Channelers College. Meaning, he has an alchemy garden in the center of his chambers right here in the Spire.
I had to refrain myself from cheering, opting instead for a quiet fist pump in the air.
I've marked it on your map.
Pulling my map open, I toggled to the 5th level and found the pulsing green area that was similar to how she'd marked the corridor of doom earlier. Won't I need herbalism to gather the ingredients? I don't have access to that profession.
These are quest items, not involved in alchemy. Not everyone who takes this quest can be expected to have herbalism. You can gather them if you have the quest.
I nodded, but there was still something bothering me about the whole thing. There's just one thing I don't understand, I said more loudly. Creeptic turned, annoyance blooming across his face.
Are you still here?
Even if I get you these things and you make the poison, what does it matter? If Asriel is undead, it won't affect him.
One step at a time, boy, said Creeptic.
He looked me once over again.
That garb you wear is tragic, of lower quality than even the stable boys here wear.
He scanned his chamber, as though for all the world a set of epic leather armor might drop down from the ceiling.
Why don't you pop up to the armory and pick something up?
Asriel has set guards there, I said, but I did scavenge all the corpses from the attack. I'd like to take some time and craft, if you'll let me remain here where it's safe.
I thought those bodies looked ransacked, Creeptic said with a wry smile. Good for you. Got to look out for yourself. Go ahead and craft, and while we're confederates in this scheme to replace the Marshal—
You mean save the Emperor's life and possibly the whole Empire?
Yes, that. You may come and go, boy.
Thanks, I said. He didn't seem like such a sadist when he was acting nicely. Oh, and one more thing. When I craft, I often speak to myself. Helps me tease out the solution, you know? Creeptick cocked his head.
You know, I sometimes do that as well when trying to make a new blood-boiling solution. Whatever helps the creative juices to flow.
Yeah, that's right, I said, trying not to let nervous laughter seep out of me. I'll just be over here, I mumbled, sliding my way over to the farthest corner of the room. Once Creeptick returned to his routine, I lowered my voice again. All right, Ellie, time for some much-needed character management. I began by pulling up my stats sheet to assign my new points. Any new threshold on intelligence I ought to reach for crafting?
Make sure that you have 45 points in intelligence, as that will unlock another tier of items. Otherwise, I'd say put some more points in your health, but it's up to you.
Currently, my intelligence was at 41, helped greatly along by that awesome bonus from the cunning unlock. I had 9 spare points from my recent leveling, so I assigned 4 into intelligence straight away to satisfy Ellie's recommendation, then gave thought to the remaining 5. Given that the mana costs of my crafting spells were now greatly reduced, I wasn't as worried about regeneration. It was unlikely I'd get enough downtime during a fight to sit tight and regen lots of mana, so willpower wasn't a top priority. Desperate Shot was hardly the be-all and end-all, and it wasn't like I'd be spamming it in combat, meaning might wasn't as critical either. An occasional crossbow bolt would complement the traps and gadgets I'd be creating, and maybe some more runes if I found some. Intelligence seemed the best bet. The more powerful items I could craft, the better. Decided, I placed 3 more points into intelligence and 2 into constitution. It felt prudent to give myself some extra health. Stat points assigned, my new table looked like this. Character: Zoran Human Scavenger, level 11. Attributes: Constitution 18, plus 2. Intelligence 48. Reflexes 17, plus 3. Might 17, plus 2. Willpower 24. Combat: Health 525. Mana 805. Attack power 51. Spell power 94. Regen 3 per second. I noted that the small brackets beside some of my stats denoted the extra points I received from external sources like other role-playing games I'd played. In this case, the extra points came from the Traveler's worn leather set I was wearing. Overall, I hadn't advanced much from the ambush. Much of the experience from the NPC guards had been shared with my own enemies, and scavenging was still a pretty low-key affair experience-wise, more a bonus than anything outrageous. Some new, more powerful equipment should help to offset this. And now for crafting and upgrades. Got bags bursting at the seams here. What's this tinkering ability all about? Even as I asked the question, I pulled up my spell book to take a look. Tinkering, rank 1. True artists are never satisfied with their work, always seeing a way to improve their creation. You're no artist. Not yet. But you can find ways to improve your creations with a bit of experimentation. Upgrade options now available in the crafting menu. Experience gained for associated professions remains the same. Cost, 1% of mana. Seeing the reduced mana cost on tinkering reaffirmed my faith that I'd picked the right specialization. This would be a lot easier to manage, and I savored the small victory. Remembering Ellie had spurred me to create a crossbow specifically because of the upgrades it could gain, I looked to it first to see what could be done. As I examined the weapon again, I discovered that the final line of text on the description had changed. Flashing in green, it now read, "This item can be upgraded." I selected this option and a new window appeared detailing the materials that I'd need. Upgrade crossbow. Intelligence required, not applicable. Associated profession. Engineering. Wooden plank, 0 out of 4. Steel ore, 0 out of 15. Toughened leather, 0 out of 15. Fine linen, 0 out of 15. Requires tools, hammer, saw, chisel, blowtorch. Thankfully, these materials were broadly low-level ones, which made sense given my crossbow was still currently a level 4 item, and I was still a mere level 11 character. What it did not allude to was what would happen to the crossbow upon upgrading it. Any clue as to what I'll get out of this? It'll be hard to make decisions elsewhere without knowing.
At lower levels, there isn't much to worry about. Upgrading an item will take it from its current level to match your own in one go. hence why the number of materials seems quite high. This is also why there is no set intelligence requirement as the item scales to meet your current level.
So a level 50 scavenger could upgrade a weapon from level 1 all the way up to max in a single go?
They could do, but I think the list of materials needed for that would become tedious to read. Also, why upgrade something so basic when there would be far better items to hand? It seems unlikely players would take this course, although there is nothing stopping them. Go ahead, Zoran, and upgrade your crossbow. You'll see what you get.
I'll need to break down some of this loot from the ambush first, I said. I got underway, melting, hacking, chopping, and smashing equipment down into core materials via breakdown. It pained me a little to do so. In the process, I lost so much high-level gear, stuff that would have been amazing to equip, but I doubted I'd ever reach the level requirements. The lowest level piece had been a ring, giving +6 to intelligence, but requiring the wearer to be at least level 26. It was all a great shame, but it led to ample materials. I broke down a bow and a couple of shields into the wood I needed. The leather came in abundance from belts and gloves. The ore was trickier, for higher-level plate armor broke down first into true silver, then steel. The cloth was no worry at all, for I was virtually drowning in the stuff. Breaking down dream silk into silk and then fine linen was simply a laborious process. Every so often, Creepdick would throw a glance over his shoulder, but he kept any concerns to himself. Clearly, time was not of the essence so far as he was concerned. Once I had the materials to hand, the option to upgrade the crossbow lit up, and I selected it. Tinkering worked much the way that crafting and breakdown did. My character started to perform motions beyond my control, taking the crossbow in hand and infusing magic with the materials, hammering, chiseling, and sawing where needed. This time I even took out the blowtorch and used its magical flame to weld the steel into place. Once completed, I held the weapon up to admire it. Success! Rickety Shot has been upgraded to Keen Shot level 11, plus 15 crafting experience, plus 43 engineering experience. The crossbow was larger than before, thicker and stronger, though I could still manage to hold and aim it in one hand if it came to it. Steel strips had been fitted onto the outer frame and to the butt of the handle, making for a sturdier build than before. Leather covered the grip below the trigger and on the underside of the body, making it smoother to hold. But these were just simple aesthetics. More important were the changes to its stats. Keen Shot, crossbow, quality, uncommon, item level 11, requires level 11 to equip. Damage, 25 to 34 piercing, durability, 40 out of 40. Knockback chance, 5% on hit. This item can be upgraded, but it is soulbound to you. Well, it's certainly better, I said, but it's hardly a game changer.
Upgrade it again.
Ellie said, but it's already at my level.
It is, but it's of uncommon quality. If you had enough materials, you could bring this all the way up to legendary. That's why upgrading items you make is better than just making fresh ones for the most part.
Now that's cool. Every scavenger could be running around with legendary items then. How come I haven't seen anyone doing this?
Few people are playing your class, and why waste resources on low-level equipment? The amount of materials required to improve item quality becomes exponential. People would rather reach level cap first before investing such time on items.
So how far can I take this thing?
Right now, I calculate you can only reach rare item quality, but I shall endeavor to help you find materials you need to improve it further. Upgrading it again now should unlock an attachment slot.
Rubbing my hands, I checked on my new crossbow, pleased to find the green text indicating that the item was further upgradable. Having broken virtually everything down already, I went straight ahead and upgraded the weapon again. Anticipation flared in me as my character worked away at the crossbow this time. When it was finished, I hastened to check out the improvements. Success! Keen Shot has been upgraded to Precise Shot, level 15, plus 18 crafting experience, plus 55 engineering experience. Precise Shot, crossbow, quality, rare, item level 15, requires level 11 to equip. Damage, 32 to 39 piercing. Durability, 45 out of 45. Knockback chance, 10% on hit. Attachment slots, 0 out of 1. This item is upgradable, but soulbound to you. Physically, the weapon looked roughly the same, only sleeker. The bump in damage and knockback effect was a welcome one, but I was more excited by the attachment slot. "What can I make to attach to it?" I asked eagerly, scrolling through my crafting window in search of answers. Naturally, Ellie got there first.
You can make a bayonet, a scope, a grenade launcher.
"A what? Grenade launcher? Sweet, I definitely want that!"
Oh, sorry, Zoran. You can't make it with what you have. You're missing a key component, a barrel. But we can look for one as we go. In fact, right now, you can only make a bayonet.
I considered this. Having a way to inflict some extra melee damage might be useful, but it would mean I'd gotten myself cornered, and if that was the case, I was probably dead. My top priority should be staying within range and in the shadows. Thinking back on how easily I'd missed the Emperor before the ambush, any improvement to my chances of hitting the target would be invaluable. Ellie's analysis was probably spot on, but I'd found the crafting section that listed weapon attachments now, and felt it could do no harm to check. For a scope, the core component was a lens. The ore I could manage easily. Then it hit me. I surely had access to a lens, for I had a magnifying glass tool intended for jewel work, and I hardly think I'd be worrying about that anytime soon. I hadn't thought about my tools as items I might be able to use for breakdown before, but as Ellie said, if you can loot it. To my great smugness, I found I could use breakdown upon the magnifying glass, and produced a lens by doing so.
Huh. I didn't think of that.
Ellie said. "You've got a lot on your plate,"
I'll chalk it up to human ingenuity again.
she grumbled.
Maybe I should get me some of that.
"Watch and learn," I said with a wink to the ceiling. From beside his bubbling cauldron of slime, Creeptick had taken to staring at me.
"To think I've placed my ambitions in your hands,"
he said, shaking his head. I ignored him and focused on selecting my scope. Interestingly, I found the text on several variations of the scope attachment were in green all the way up to a true silver scope. This got me thinking. In most games, you could place high-level enchantments on low-level gear. It wasn't regularly done because you'd often be replacing that gear quickly, but some people liked to deck out low-level characters in ludicrously enchanted gear to make killing players of an equal level a piece of cake in PvP events or battlegrounds. The main point was that it was possible. Attachments, in my mind, seemed a lot like enchantments. "Ellie, can I make a higher-level scope and attach that?"
You can. I'd recommend you make the true silver scope, as that is the highest you can create.
I flicked down the list. I actually had the components for a more powerful version using mithril ore, of which I had one remaining piece from breaking down a level 35 set of plate gloves. Shame I didn't have a higher intelligence stat. I needed 75 intelligence to make the mithril version. Tabitha had given me a potion to knock up my points when I'd needed it, though, so maybe the same could be done again? "Excuse me, Mr. Interrogator?" Creeptick gave no sign that he was listening. "Any chance one of those potions you have up on the top shelf there will boost my brain power for a bit?"
"Figures,"
Creeptick said absent-mindedly. In one fluid motion, he reached up, grabbed the closest ice-blue bottle, and threw it towards me. With a grace I certainly didn't have in real life, I lunged to the side and caught it. "Wow, thanks. Got any more of those?" Creeptick growled lowly.
"I do not. The thieves, likely serving this Azrael, took most of my store while I was unconscious. What little remains I shall require if I'm to brew you that poison. Now drink it before I change my mind."
I hastened to pull the cork from the vial, bracing myself for the vile taste before downing the contents. With a stroke of good fortune, it turned out to be delicious. Vanilla and caramel perfectly blended. High-level potions came with more rewards than just the effects. Archmage's pick-me-up, plus 50 intellect. Duration, 5 minutes. I cracked a grin. Now my intelligence stat was temporarily at 95. Potions were like enchants, I guessed, and didn't have a level requirement. If you wanted to waste a perfectly good level 50 potion on a level 15 character, go right ahead.
Brilliant!
Ellie said.
That's an endgame potion. I'm surprised he just handed one over. He must like you.
Sizing me up for a dissection, more like. Keeping one eye on the torturer, I went ahead and created my desired scope. Success! Mithril Scope level 35 created, plus 33 crafting experience, plus 115 engineering experience. Mithril Scope, item level 35, can be attached to any ranged weapon, plus 30 weapon damage, plus 10% chance to hit. My triumph could only go so far. Yes, I could make this powerful scope, but there was no point making other high-level equipment that had level restrictions on equipping it. Still, the attachment would be a significant upgrade. Really significant. The plus damage it provided alone nearly doubled my base weapon damage, and this was now reflected in my crossbow's item description. Precise shot. Crossbow. Quality, rare. Item level 16. Requires level 11 to equip. Damage, 62 to 69 piercing. Durability, 45 out of 45. Knockback chance, 10% on hit. Attachment slots, 1 out of 1. Mithril Scope. Plus 10% chance to hit. This item is upgradable, but soulbound to you. I was starting to feel halfway threatening now, though the thought of taking on Azrael, a level 50 player, quelled the fire in me. In terms of crafting, I was running low on materials, especially ore. Without endless weapons from the armory to break down, I'd have to be more selective about what I made in the future. I still had a decent amount of leather left, enough to make headway into a superior set of armor. Out of a 5-piece nimble armor set, I made the chest piece, leggings, and boots. Nimble chest guard, quality uncommon, item level 10, requires level 10 to equip, plus 55 armor, plus 2 constitution, plus 2 might, durability 55 out of 55. This item is upgradable, but will become soulbound to you. Nimble leg guards, quality uncommon, item level 10, requires level 10 to equip, plus 48 armor, plus 2 reflexes, plus 1 might. This item is upgradable, but will become soulbound to you. Nimble boots, quality uncommon, item level 10, requires level 10 to equip, plus 40 armor, plus 1 might. This item is upgradable, but will become soulbound to you. I greatly welcomed the extra armor and stats from these items, and my leatherworking advanced to rank 2. I was overflowing with cloth, so I sought some use for it. 2 pieces stood out to me from the tailoring section. A cowl that would aid me in being a stealthy bastard, and frost spell-enhancing gloves. Breaking down some dream silk into regular silk, I had more than enough materials, and started with the cowl. Cowl of Midnight, quality uncommon, item level 10, requires level 10 to equip, plus 15 armor, plus 3 reflexes, increases effective sneak level by 1, increases effective night vision level by 1. This item is upgradable, but will become soulbound to you. I was quite taken with the look of it, too. A blue so deep it was nearly black, the cloth shimmered faintly in Creeptic's candlelight. Next, the gloves. These actually required me to use one of my frost runes to make, but I reckoned it would be well worth it. Those bad boys had come in useful twice now, and I'd definitely be relying on them again. Knitting needles clicking wildly, my character went about making my magical mitts. Adept's Arctic Muffs. Quality uncommon. Item level 10. Requires level 10 to equip. Plus 12 armor. Plus 2 intelligence. Plus 1% effectiveness to frost spells. This item is upgradable, but will become soulbound to you. With some upgrades, that extra percentage might get real useful if I needed to slow someone down. I took a final glance around the materials in my inventory and what I could make. I still had ore, but without gunpowder, I couldn't make any more grenades for the time being. Still, with my new gear on my character sheet, I was looking a bit healthier. Character: Zoran Human Scavenger, level 11. Attributes: Constitution 18, plus 2. Intelligence 48, plus 2. Reflexes 17, plus 5. Might 17, plus 4. Willpower 24. Combat: Health 525. Mana 825. Attack power 54. Spell power 97. Regen 3 per second. Feeling like there was little more I could do, I closed my inventory and crafting windows. Grenades and traps I was low on, but slime I might be able to get. Creepdick had just handed me a potion when I'd asked for it, so... Any chance I could get some of your slime? Your arch solution? I hastened to add, remembering the official name that Ellie had mentioned. Creepdick turned around real slow. Dangerously slow.
How much do you desire?
My jaw hung slack. I'd fully expected him to say no. As much of it as I can take, I suppose. He scanned his shelves.
I have 20 vials left. I thought I had more, but this is an odd day.
Thankfully, he didn't suspect me of the theft, and I stepped closer to collect my slime jars. You're just letting me have it? Creepdick shrugged.
I can always brew some more, and I'm truly unsure what need you could have for it.
I hear it's very slippery. Might be good for causing an enemy to lose their footing.
A banana peel might suffice. It would certainly be cheaper, yet one must make do.
You're being awfully helpful. Not that I'm complaining. I wasn't expecting it, I suppose, so thank you. The torturer hunched his shoulders, bending his tall frame so his face was right before my own.
Make no mistake, boy. I do not do this out of charity. I want Kross's position, and so I need the Emperor alive and suitably indebted to me. Don't fail me, or you may yet find yourself upon my table.
Well, I shan't fail you then, I said. Thanks for the slime. He growled lowly and then returned to his work. Placing the vials of slime in my inventory, I tried to ready myself for what lay ahead. Asriel's gruesome face appeared front and center, mocking me with his smile. I tried not to think of him and turned my mind to the immediate task at hand. Get the herbs, complete the quest, get the poison. One step at a time. That's how I'd get through this. One step at a time. All the same, I wasn't exactly sprinting out the door. Perhaps Ellie could sense my hesitation.
I think you're looking quite menacing now. Very assassin-like in that cowl.
Aw, shucks, I said. How's my health in the real world?
Do you really want to know?
On second thought, not really. I checked the time on my map. It was close to 7 a.m. now. I must have been down in Creepdick's chambers for quite a while, and each and every hour brought my body closer to the brink. With a new day dawning, the issue of heat in that squat room with busted aircon would only worsen. All right, no time left to dawdle. What's the best way to the Archmage's chambers on the 5th floor?
All the sneaky ways. Time to put that key you have to good use again. Follow my lead and we should avoid Asriel's patrols.
Hey, I like the sound of that. I'll return with those herbs, Creepdick, I called to the torturer as I left his chambers. Chapter 20. As Ellie guided me up the servant staircases and through secret passages, I felt like a creature of the night. The gloom of these windowless hallways made it easy to forget it was daytime in both the real world and the game. More than once, we had to reroute to avoid Asriel's patrols, which meant it had gone 7:30 before I arrived on the 5th floor. Ellie instructed me to wait before entering any corridor to give her time to properly scan for player activity, so now I stood with bated breath in a passage behind a tapestry. As though to pass the time, I was greeted with a notification. Night vision increased, level 4. You can now see well enough to not trip up anymore. Go you. My time in the gloomy back corridors of the Spire had some benefit at least, always gratifying. With my Cowl of Midnight equipped, my effective night vision was actually at level 5. Even if the only advantage I gained from it was navigating around the Spire easier, I'd take it. Every boost right now would make a huge difference. I consulted my map and found myself at the far end of a T-junction of hallways. To reach the Archmage's guest chambers, I should take a left at the intersection and follow it straight down to the end. Whoever this Archmage was, he liked his luxury, for the room appeared huge on the map, a spherical suite still marked in the green bubble that Ellie had placed there for my convenience. Unfortunately, there was also a golden star marker on the move, a colleague of Azrael's. "How long has this guy been here?" I asked.
I've been observing him since we left the dungeons.
Ellie said.
It looks like Azrael has been watching over some of the more valuable rooms, likely expecting you to show up. He's a dwarf berserker, level 31.
"Any chance we can sneak around him?"
I don't think so. He enters the Archmage's chambers on each patrol.
"How did they get in without a key? Was it unlocked?"
Azrael brought several rogues with him. Presumably, one of them has a high skill in lock-picking.
"So, they probably swiped all the good loot then?"
Given that they ransacked Creeptic's chambers during their first assault, that is a reasonable conclusion.
I sighed. Can't a guy catch a break? What about the herbs?
The herbs should be safe. As I said, without the quest, you cannot loot them.
Frustrated, I stared at the player's golden marker, willing him to turn to ash right there. Annoyingly, he kept on walking, currently heading towards the mage's room. With the coast temporarily clear, I pushed on the tapestry to inspect the corridor beyond. There were plenty of gargoyle heads and other nooks higher up, so I could attack from above. I still had my grappling hook, after all. Berserkers don't have any ranged abilities, right?
None at all.
I cracked my knuckles, hope kindling. Okay, so if I get above him, I can just take shots until he dies. The moment I said it, I knew it was stupid. Aside from the fact that I could miss more shots than I hit, my enemy would probably just run away or call for backup. "Never mind," I said, deflated.
You'll have to eject him from the game. Quickly.
"It's never easy, is it?" I said, bringing myself back into the safety of the hidden passage. I contemplated my options. I lacked grenades and caltrops, and the true element of surprise this time. Whoever this player was, they were alert to the fact that I was roaming the Spire. At least my opponent was a melee fighter, meaning he'd be forced to get in close. Any key abilities that berserkers have I should be aware of? Something I could take advantage of?
I can think of one. To close the gap and go for a quick kill, he'll likely activate a move called Brutal Charge. This will increase his speed and attack power, but also the amount of damage he'll take during the charge.
There was an obvious strategy for me in that. I checked my crafting page to see if there was anything that might give me a helping hand. Under traps, I found this. Recipe: silk wire. Intelligence required 35. Associated profession: tailoring. Silk times 6. Required tools: knitting needles, scissors. Made from finer silk, this line will trip an enemy with the same strength as a normal tripwire, but it is less visible. Keener eyes will be required to spot it. The recipe required 6 pieces of silk. I had 40 pieces left, so I made 2 tripwires, leaving me with 28 spare for the future. Success: silk wire level 20 times 2 created, plus 44 crafting experience, plus 140 tailoring experience. Tailoring increased, rank 4. After running my plan by Ellie, I waited until the player entered the Archmage's chambers, then snuck out to prepare my next ambush. When ready, I retreated to the tapestry, standing proudly and openly as far away from the corridor junction as I could. The berserker was just about to turn down this way on his patrol route. To reach me, he'd have to get over my first tripwire, then a puddle of slime, another wire, and then more slime. I'd been conservative and only dropped 2 vials, not knowing when I'd next have a chance to stock up.
Here he comes,
Ellie said. Bring it, I said, setting a bolt onto my shiny new crossbow. I felt good about this one. The player turned down the corridor and froze. Looking through the mithril scope, I could see him as though he were only a few feet in front of me. He'd opted for a classic ginger dwarf avatar, his pale skin seemingly of a dweller dwarf. He had an ungodly amount of hair falling on all sides that was bound by ringlets. His name was some long contrived gamer tag, so I decided I'd call him something with a better ring to it. Morning, Gingy! Unsurprisingly, he drew his weapons, a sword and dagger for fast attacks. I took a pot shot, not attempting to use desperate shot at this range. Either I got lucky or this high-level scope was really working for me because I hit his shoulder, causing a respectable amount of damage considering our level difference. Berserkers would tear enemies to shreds in melee, but couldn't wear the heavy armor of a warrior. The damage angered him, which was good for me. Without so much as a derogatory comment towards me, Gingy threw back his head and let loose a roar.
That's brutal charge,
Ellie said. I began loading a second bolt as he started to run, ripping the shaft embedded in his flesh free on his second step. He was so fixated on me that he didn't see the first silk wire. I've never witnessed such a spectacular fall. Gingy's back foot caught the wire, sending him hurtling forward, legs wide apart as though he were doing the splits. He might have recovered, if not for the slime which he duly slipped on, his face hitting the floor in what I hoped was a painful crash. Benefiting from the increased damage he was taking with Brutal Charge active, I sent a bolt into his back and hastened to load another. Gingy scrambled to his feet. In the middle of the slime, he was a little shaky getting upright. The momentum and power of his charge had been stolen from him, so he managed a few steps without falling this time. I let loose another bolt, but missed, the shaft soaring clean to his right. Cursing, I pulled out a frost rune. Charging the single frost bolt with 500 mana, I released the spell, catching his leg. Winter's Chill, movement speed decreased by 25%, plus 1% from gear effects, plus 0.25 decrease to movement speed. Duration, 5 seconds. A blue tinge swept over Gingy's entire body, his pace slowed considerably, and I leveled another bolt. I took my shot, sure I would hit him this time. A split second before the impact, Gingy's avatar returned to its normal color, the Winter's Chill effect dispelled. He arched his back with an agility that I thought was impossible in a dwarf, dodging my shot completely.
He's using adrenaline rush,
Ellie said.
His reflexes are doubled.
Crap, I said, beginning to panic now. You might have mentioned that. I'd been counting on getting free rein to shoot him while he stumbled up the corridor, but things were not going well. In a stroke of good fortune, I managed to hit him again, but I don't think he was even trying to waste time dodging me anymore. His health was still safely above the halfway mark, and with his reflexes through the roof, he leapt over my next silk wire without fear of the slime on the other side. Instinctively, I backpedaled, but soon hit the wall behind me. Not knowing what else to do, I threw down another vial of slime in the hopes of catching him as adrenaline rush ended. Neon green covered the 20 feet left between us. What I needed was a way to either slow him down or trip him, which he couldn't avoid.
Just run,
Ellie said, but I didn't. A mad idea struck me. Pulling out another frost rune, I pumped 175 mana into the spell, leaving just enough for a desperate shot. I loosed it, but not at Gingy. This time, I aimed at the slime. My hammering heart ceased beating entirely as I watched the shard of ice fly. During the last ambush, the slime had conducted flames when struck by the mage's AoE spell. Would it do the same here? It did. The frost bolt hit the slime midway between me and Gingy, and it started to spread. Tendrils of ice emanated from the impact site, hardening the surface of the goo. Gingy's eyes widened in horror as he lost his footing again, unable to control himself upon this mini-frozen lake. He slipped, landing flat on his ass with a damaging thud, then carried on sliding down the ice towards me. I leapt aside, letting him slam into the wall. The impact damage had brought him below half health. I tried to step closer for a headshot, but his flailing arms created a swirl of sharp blades. Still, I got close enough to be sure of a hit and activated Desperate Shot, firing a bolt into his chest. He was still taking more damage due to the effect of Brutal Charge, and for a moment I thought I'd done it. His health drained till it was so low it might as well be gone, but he remained thrashing on the floor. The only problem was my mana was now empty. I had no potions and no melee weapon to score a quick hit. All I could do was load another shot. Before I could fire, Gingy rose to his feet and lunged at me like a pro linebacker. My head hit the ground and starry lights flashed before my eyes. Then Gingy was on top of me. Ringlets of red beard obscured my vision. Dirty hair entered my open mouth as I tried to squirm my way free. A strong arm pinned me down on my left and on my right. I felt a blade sink in below my ribs. The pain was greatly dulled from the game's settings, so it wasn't blinding, but it felt like a hard punch. Winded, I gasped for breath, held fast by the dwarf, and watched my health plunge 400 points in one go. Another hit, and I'd be dead. Properly dead. I felt Gingy raise his arm for a second blow, releasing the pressure from my right side. Some primal sense took me over, and with my free arm I reached over to my quiver, drew a bolt, and thrust it up. A shocked choke, a clatter of metal to my right, then the most glorious notification I'd ever seen. Monster D 69er, Berserker, level 31, dies. 200 experience. The corpse fell on top of me, knocking what breath I had left out of me, but nothing more. Ellie let loose a sigh of relief.
Thank goodness. I had no idea if adrenaline rush would help him run over the slime, but you got him anyway. Well done. Well done, well done.
She rambled on. Breathing hard, I pushed Gingy off me and crab-legged it out from under him. Once clear, I sat down, feeling a touch shell-shocked, and allowed my health to start ticking back up.
That's 26 of them left now,
Ellie said. Forgive me if I don't find a huge amount to celebrate in that, I said. Did he send out a message to the others before he died?
No, he kept his UI clear to focus on fighting you. It happened so fast, I don't think it even crossed his mind. That will buy us some extra time, but Asriel will know something is up when he doesn't report in. The players are sending messages to him every 15 minutes. The next one is due in 10.
Okay, I said, unable to fully process everything she'd said at once. Baby steps, I reminded myself. First things first, I needed to loot and scavenge. Looting Gingy, I got the very dagger he'd used to stab me with, which felt cathartic. Scavenging granted me the good old humanoid drops of coins and cloth. With precious little time to spare, I began making my way towards the Archmage's chambers, treading lightly around the still frozen slime and watching I didn't fall victim to my own silk wires. Once I felt more in control of myself, I noted, That was close.
At least we know that the slime will interact with frost as well as fire. Given this behavior, I suspect the substance reacts similarly to all magical stimulus.
Is it supposed to work like this?
I was unaware of this issue. No beta tester reported it, but it could be no tester has ever tried such a thing. The slime, as you call it, is intended as an endgame alchemy reagent after all.
Issue? It's a bloody miracle. Just wish I knew exactly how it worked.
I'll review the footage and combat logs from your ambush earlier,
Ellie said. A second passed, and then...
Done. The slime's first reaction to the mage's AoE spell caused tremendous additional damage. When the slime caught fire, it took on the damage of the mage's attack and dealt it to anyone struck by the inflamed substance. Effectively, it became a double hit of the spell, and many of those targets were already greatly weakened. Hence, all the deaths.
So, that's why my grenades were less effective. They would dish out way less damage than that higher-level mage, but it was a bonus nonetheless.
Precisely. In lore, Arch Solution is designed to allow potion and poison ingredients to mix without losing their potency. Seems it also has curious ways of interacting with raw magic.
Would the devs have meant this?
Doubtful. I have no record that suggests this as an intention of the game design. The reactions so far are also inconsistent. Fire ignites the slime, conducting the same damage, whereas your frost spell simply froze the slime solid. It did not apply the winter's chill effect to player monster D69er.
I snorted a laugh. Hearing her say that name aloud so matter-of-factly was too perfect.
What's so funny?
Oh, nothing, I said, feeling it was neither the time nor place to explain the joke. But yeah, it's cool to have discovered this secret. Nobody else will know what I'm doing. One more thing on the runes. The first time I used the frost rune, I got an empowered buff to it. I haven't since.
Empowered buffs are given to rune casts when the user imbues their entire mana pool into them. It has to be your entire pool, not merely the entirety of the pool you have in the middle of a fight. So, if your maximum mana is 100, that is how much you need to use to gain the empowered bonus. Each bonus increases the power of the cast significantly.
But then you're left without any mana. Not ideal.
Players consider runes ineffective for combat purposes. Magic users will occasionally carry a few to supplement their powers, but regular abilities for most classes are far superior and don't carry such a high mana requirement. For example, you could use 2,000 mana to bring the slow effect of the Frost rune to 100%, essentially freezing the enemy in place. However, that is a significant amount of mana to use on a single spell, which isn't all that powerful. Mages specializing in their Frost tree could use a simple freeze spell to root the target in place at a fraction of the mana cost and without the need for a consumable item. And unless your class has mana, you can't use the runes. Warriors, rogues, rangers, and monks cannot use them at all. With all that in mind, there is a general limitation on their effectiveness.
Yeah, but no other player is combining rune effects with slime.
No, they are not.
Although, I continued grimly, even with the frozen slime's helping hand, I very nearly died. I take it there's no way I could glitch swapping weapons in the middle of combat and make a sword and shield for myself for when the shit hits the fan?
Switching officially equipped items in combat is prohibited. Taking a bolt from your quiver is one thing, and generally it is going to do so little damage it's not worth considering. I'd recommend you focus all of your resources on upgrading the crossbow.
I agree. I think my next attachment will be the bayonet. I'll need something for melee range.
That's up to you, Zoran, though I am concerned that you won't be able to find enough resources to upgrade the weapon beyond epic quality. You may only have 2 attachment slots to use, and so placing on a bayonet will prevent you attaching a grenade launcher.
I squeezed my hands into fists at this latest drawback. Yet as ever, Ellie was right. No way was I going to risk not being able to build a grenade launcher attachment just for a little knife on the end of my crossbow. Who would? That was all a bayonet was in the end, a gun with a big knife shoved on the end. Or a dagger? I drew up short before the Archmage's chambers, opening my inventory to take a closer look at the loot I'd acquired from Gingy. The Ogre Carver, dagger, quality uncommon, item level 30, requires level 30 to equip, damage 40 to 45. Thick blade, chance on hit to ignore 10% of enemy armor, +4 might, +4 reflexes. Withdrawing the knife, it weighed nicely in my hands. The blade was visibly thicker than any other dagger I'd seen and had piranha-like serrations. I'd been able to lash 6 battle axes together to make a pendulum device. It hadn't been all that stable, but it had got the job done. It would be too clumsy to use rope to tie the dagger onto my crossbow, as it could mock up the function of the weapon altogether. But the silk tripwire was far finer and plenty strong enough.
What are you doing?
Ellie asked.
Get inside. We don't have much time.
Just let me try something, I said, already crafting another silk wire. I crouched down, placing the wire and dagger on the ground, then unholstered my crossbow. Lining up the hilt of the dagger with the underside of the frame, I began to wrap the wire around them both, tying it off at both ends. Once that was done, the blade stuck out exactly as a bayonet should, but so far as the item description went, nothing had changed. Delighted, I swung the crossbow around a few times to check how stable it was. It wasn't exactly welded in place and might just fall off at the first sign of trouble, but it would serve as a test. With luck, I'd just added on a higher-level bayonet than I'd be able to make, outside of another intelligence boost from Cryptic.
That's, new?
Ellie said. I beamed. Best of both worlds, right?
Not exactly.
I should have learned at this point not to be so optimistic. Will it not work?
It will to an extent. But as the dagger isn't officially equipped by you, it's not operating like a weapon is supposed to. It won't benefit from any of your stats, nor any modifier that would be applied by an ability like Desperate Strike. Skill with the weapon would also be negated. What were you expecting, Zoran? Did you think a level 1 player would be able to tie a level 50 sword onto a stick and wield it?
I grumbled. Will it do damage or not?
It will damage people in the same way a sharp piece of metal falling on them from a height would in this game. It's going to have a minimal effect at best.
Minimal is better than zero. If it doesn't work, I can always add a proper attachment later. No harm in trying.
Just taking up time.
No more dawdling, I promise. I pushed on the door to the Archmage's guest chambers. Let's grab some rare herbs for a creepy torture master. Chapter 21. Entering the sanctum of the Archmage, a feeling of serenity enveloped me. The very air took me in a loving embrace, warming my aching muscles and banishing my woes. It felt like sitting by a fireside after a heavy meal and a glass of wine, drifting between wakefulness and sleep. I yawned and swayed where I stood. What's going on?
The Archmage is addicted to the spores of a plant called dream shade,
Ellie said.
He grows them in the alchemy garden.
Oh? I said, swaying again.
Zoran, focus.
I shook my head to little avail, but through sheer determination I blinked back this intoxicating haze long enough to get my bearings. At the center of the chamber was a miniature garden, complete with a gnarled tree amidst a sea of colored herbs. Great mushrooms with stalks as thick as a man's arm towered over huge violet clovers. Gray ghost grass sprouted between golden roses, and all of it drew water from droplets running down an encircling marble wall. Some magic powered it all, the water never ceasing its cascade and a clear beam of sunlight nourishing the garden in a windowless room. I stumbled towards this garden, this paradise.
Wait,
Ellie said sharply.
Step back out, Zoran. Don't breathe it in.
Relaxed as I was, I complied without protest, stepping lazily back out into the hallway. At once, my head cleared, my vision sharpened.
Take a deep breath from out here first,
Ellie told me. In the real world, I could barely hold my breath past 30 seconds without my lungs screaming. Inside 100 Kingdoms, a timer appeared before my eyes, counting down how much longer I could hold on. Holding breath, 120 seconds. Well, this was a cool mechanic, a way to avoid toxins in the air, and I foresaw many a dungeon or boss encounter where this might be utilized. All the same, I could hardly talk like this.
It's for underwater breathing as well. The undead like Azrael can hold their breath for far longer. No oxygen required and all that. Now get in before it runs out.
My first thought was to pick the dream shade to lessen the miasma. I spotted it quickly upon returning, its name appearing over an offensively bright pink flower, gently swaying despite there being no breeze. I moved towards it.
There's too much of it,
Ellie said.
Just pick the herbs we need.
I acknowledged her with a nod, then referred to my quest log to see what ingredients I needed. The cinderflake was easy to spot, for it was the only plant growing in a patch of sand. Black moss was trickier, but I found some by turning over a rock placed in the shadow of the tree. Scouring the garden, I found them all. 1 fingleweed, 5 dead-looking witherweeds, 5 snapper saw plants, receiving 2 bites for my troubles, and finally, the bile blossoms. The blossoms stunk worse than a men's locker room with a broken AC unit and the janitor on vacation, but I'd done it. All the ingredients had been collected with breath to spare. It was almost too easy. I'd need to get a move on lest Azrael send more players to corner me, though I knew I might not get another chance to return to this room, and I'd regret not rooting around for some items. I ought to scavenge. As the final seconds ticked down upon my breath meter, I made a dash for the edge of the room where glass cabinets lined the wall, the promise of loot inside.
I told you, they ransacked the place.
There's gotta be something, I said, drifting back to a happier place as I was forced to inhale again. Feeling dazed, I scanned my surroundings as best I could. The cabinets were all open. Their locks had been picked and their valuables stolen. Whatever powerful gear had been in there was now out of my reach, but I could only ever have broken it down. By the alchemy bench, I saw a near-empty shelf of potions. All the powerful combat enhancers and health restorers had gone. They left some mana potions, though, probably thinking it was not all that useful for me. Limited by their own bag space, they'd left what they thought was unthreatening. My movements were sluggish, and I knocked a mana potion to the floor by accident, but was able to salvage the remaining 6. There were greater mana swirls, able to restore up to 1,200 mana. Not a lot for high-level players, I imagine, but plenty good for me. I stumbled farther along, keeping one hand against the wall to support me as I did so.
5 minutes until Azrael's men check in, Zoran. Run out, then come back in with your breath held.
It's fine, I said lazily. And that's plenty of time. Ellie mused darkly. You know, I can't blame this Archmage guy for being addicted to this stuff. It's good.
Is this how you felt in the real world? With your own obsession?
Ellie asked. As ever, her tone was perfectly innocent. Like when I played Myth online? That was different.
Different how?
Like, not soothing, I slurred. Big highs, but it fell into lows too. Consequences. Stress. This is just so nice. Peaceful. I lost balance and only remained upright by slumping against a larger cabinet. It had numerous small openings like a display shelf in a sneaker store. A crystal orb fell from above, smashing on the ground.
Maybe your loved ones did you a favor in stopping you playing?
I stopped myself, I slurred, but they could barely contain their excitement when I told them.
Do you resent that?
Who wouldn't? But, you know what, Ellie?
What, Zoran?
The thing I don't like most is that maybe they have a point. Maybe. Memories of heated rage and frustration with my old guild rose to the surface. Late nights with poor quality sleep as I grew ever more strained. A vicious spiral. The image of Wilder's disdainful look in the woods snapped at the heels of these older recollections. The lowliest of my transgressions, but the freshest. I groaned and clawed further along the cabinet. More items were shaken loose, falling around me. Silver liquid oozed from smashed bottles, staining dry pages of worn books. I love these games, I said slowly, but I'm not sure they bring out the best in me. My eyelids fluttered, my head swayed.
Zoran? Zoran? You have to leave.
I heard her, but didn't quite register the words. My swaying head collided with the cabinet, bringing me a painful moment of clarity. Among the debris, I thought I could see a runestone. My mind regained some measure of sobriety as a result of this, the way a fright sobers us up in the real world. Bending low, there were several stones scattered from a fallen pouch, much like the ones I'd seen back in the armory. Picking up the stone, I turned it over to find a small white tornado etched onto it. Air rune, reagent consumable. Push back enemies using the power of the wind. Activating this will allow you to channel mana to unleash the untapped element inside. One-time use. Spells on use. Gale Blast or Whirlwind. Gale Blast. Target will suffer a knockback of 0.25 feet for every 10 units of mana infused into the spell. Whirlwind. Target will suffer a knockback of 0.25 feet for every 15 units of mana infused into the spell. Radius of AoE increased by 0.2 feet for every 75 mana. Empowered bonus. Use of total mana pool will increase the knockback effect on the target by 5 feet. Everything in my gut told me to activate the rune. Gale Blast or Whirlwind. I selected the Whirlwind effect and sent a few hundred mana into the spell. A brief howl of wind erupted from my palm as I let go, blowing outwards. The spores from the dream shade were blasted away, and my head cleared.
Perfect! Azrael's men must have left these runes. They wouldn't have seen much use in them.
Ordinarily, they wouldn't be overly useful, I said, but we have our secret slime. I wonder how air runes interact with it.
You can experiment later.
I know. I'll grab what I can and get going. I scooped up the scattered air runes and placed them back in the pouch. There were 14 left, confirming these things seemed to come in bags of 15. With the air runes safely in my inventory, I turned my attention to the shelves directly above where the pouch had fallen. 2 more coarse pouches teetered on the edge of their shelf, one emblazoned with a red flame, the other with 3 gray triangles overlapping each other like the peaks of a mountain range. Fire and earth. Jubilant at finding more runes, I grabbed them and near enough skipped towards the door.
Wait.
Ellie said.
Before you go, there's something else you can do. You see those pulsing bluebells at the edge of the garden?
I looked over to be greeted with the alien plants.
Eat one.
Ellie told me. Ever trusting of her, I picked one and stuffed it into my mouth. It tasted like a syrup-drenched ice blast and gave me the same feeling of brain freeze. Wincing, I prepared to chide Ellie for her prank, but the notification cut me off. Brain booster drops, plus 100 to base mana.
And that oversized sunflower.
Ellie went on.
Eat one of those too.
Excited to find what I'd get from this one, I wasted no time. The sunflower tasted better, a bit like fried zucchini. Harvest blooms, plus 100 to base health. Very nice. Let me eat some more quickly.
Not so fast. Did you really think you could just eat your way to a powerful character? Those are some one-off effects from rare plants, which you're not likely to find in the wild until you're in your level 30s.
I ought to have been grateful, but I let loose a grumble anyway. At least the room had provided far more than I could have hoped for. High-level gear would have been useless while the runes and mana boosts would serve me well. Yet my mood soured again as the memory of my drunken ramblings filtered back to me. I decided I should address the issue. Ellie, about what I said back there, I don't like talking about it too much.
Why?
There it was again. Could she just not pick up on social cues, or was she just trying to press me for an answer? What did it matter? I wouldn't say I'm the happiest person in the world. Not sad or mopey. Well, not all the time anyway. And I don't get envious of others like I used to either. I used to be all those things, though. And it's easier when you feel that way, to just get angry. To feel aggrieved that your taller, broader roommate with the messy blonde hair and designer stubble has an easy lot in life. That's Lucas, by the way. Honestly, I got over a lot of this recently. I noticed how I was lashing out at others and being harsh on myself after I stopped playing Myth. That game had been my escape for a long time, where I found friends, where I was happy. But something went wrong, and I'm not really sure what it was. And rather than think on why things were falling apart, I just got angry. For some time now, I've been feeling neutral, flat. I know a part of the reason I wanted to play 100 Kingdoms again was to try and get back to my old self, the guy who was excited and happy to forge a guild, a whole life inside of the game. But things hadn't ended well for me the last time, and maybe I was afraid of going down that road again, in case I mucked it all up. In case I was my own undoing. I'm not sure I was ready to explain this weirdness to another person yet. I didn't think anyone would understand. So how would a machine understand, even if I told her?
You've gone quiet again.
Ellie said. Yeah, sorry, I croaked.
It's okay. You don't have to tell me more than you want to, but I'll be here if you do.
Thanks. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I made for the chamber doors, but not 10 steps away, Ellie sent panicked instructions.
Get out of sight! Against the wall!
As though I'd trained for this my whole life, I threw myself against the wall, just behind the still-open chamber doors. Some of the spore-heavy air began drifting back towards me from the other side of the room, so I couldn't afford to dawdle. What is it? I whispered. Players?
2 of them. I'm sorry, Zoran. I was worried about you there and lost focus. They are coming up the corridor.
Maybe they'll run straight in here to check and get caught in the dream shade.
I doubt it,
Ellie said. She sounded worried. Crouching low, I took a risk and glanced around the side of the chamber doors. I couldn't see anyone at all. You sure there are people out there?
2 rogues.
I felt my stomach give way. In stealth, I finished for her. Let me guess. One of them is the skilled lockpick who must have opened the chambers before. They'll know about the spores.
Correct. He's level 36. The other guy is 32.
2 rogues waiting in stealth to gank me as I come out, and I don't have any grenades to bring them out of it. God damn it. I buried my face into my hands. I can't do this. I am royally screwed. Chapter 22. Slumping down, I felt my head turn fuzzy again. The spores were closing in on me. With little choice, I sucked in a breath and held it. The timer began. Holding breath, 120 seconds. 2 minutes. That's all I had to figure out a way to escape the higher-level rogues in stealth waiting for me. 2 minutes before I'd become a drooling idiot again and probably stumble into a poisoned blade of my own accord. Yeah, this was the hardest puzzle I'd ever faced in the game. And I'd completed the first VR Zelda game in gauntlet mode with just 1 heart the entire time. 2 minutes, I thought. Here I go.
We can still communicate.
Ellie said.
Nod if you're going to fight.
I nodded. What else was there to do? An idea came to me. I didn't have grenades to use radius damage to bring the rogues out of stealth, but perhaps a fire rune would do the trick? I held one up, pointing to it with my free hand. Fire rune, reagent, consumable. Launch a targeted fireball or a wave of searing flames. Activating will allow you to channel mana to unleash the untapped element inside. One-time use. Spells on use, fireball or inferno. Fireball. Unleash a spell dealing 25 fire damage for every 20 units of mana infused into the spell. Benefits from your own spell power. Inferno. Unleash a spell dealing 25 fire damage for every 25 units of mana infused into the spell. Benefits from your own spell power. Radius of AoE effect increased by 0.25 feet for every 80 mana. Empowered bonus. Use of the total mana pool will increase the fire damage dealt by 20%.
Not bad, but you won't get the reach on an AoE spell from here. You don't have that kind of mana yet.
That was irksome, if not unexpected. Perhaps I could achieve the same effect by pairing a fire rune with a splash of slime. I held out a vial of slime along with the fire rune, one eyebrow cocked.
You'd need a perfect aim. I wouldn't risk that.
Desperate, I pulled out my grappling hook.
Come on, Soren. You'll never climb fast enough.
I frowned at her. Well, I frowned at the air.
My advice would be to take advantage of the fact that you know they are there. They don't know I'm helping you. Draw them in close and use their own ambush against them.
My frightened expression must have been a picture, for Ellie hurriedly added,
I'll tell you when to duck. Just don't hesitate, okay?
That was about as good a plan as any, I supposed. With any luck, the rogues would inflict a lot of accidental damage on each other. The question remained of what to do after my opener. Try slowing them? 5 seconds of slowed speed wouldn't help much with 2 enemies. They'd reach me eventually, and then I'd survive about 2 hits, judging from how much damage Gingy had dealt with 1 stab. An air rune probably wasn't going to help me much either, as blowing my enemies away from me would only delay the inevitable. One last rune type remained unexplored. Taking out an earth rune, I read its description. Earth rune, reagent, consumable. Create a defensive second skin or raise a barrier of rock. Activating will allow you to channel mana to unleash the untapped element inside. One-time use. Spells on use, rock armor or rock wall. Rock armor. Summon a temporary armor of living rock to reduce incoming damage by 1% for every 15 units of mana infused into the spell. Base time of debuff is 5 seconds, with an additional 1 second added for every 500 mana increment. Rock wall. Summon a temporary wall of living rock 0.5 feet in length for every 15 units of mana infused into the spell. Base time of debuff is 5 seconds, with an additional 1 second added for every 500 mana increment. Empowered bonuses. For rock armor, use of total mana pool will increase the damage reduction effect by 5%. For rock wall, use of total mana pool will increase the length of the wall by 5 feet and the duration of the wall by 3 seconds. I held it up for Ellie's attention.
That might work, but armor will help you for only a short time and then you'll be low on mana, if not out of it completely.
I'd just picked up 6 mana potions, of course, each able to restore more than all my mana in one go. Sadly, the cooldown would prevent me from doing that more than once every minute, but it seemed I didn't have many other plays to make, and I was running out of time holding my breath. Go big or go home, right? Deciding on my play, I pressed my thumb and forefinger together into an OK sign.
You've got a plan?
I nodded.
Good luck, Soren. I'm with you.
Gripping an earth rune in my palm, I stepped out into view of the corridor.
Pretend you're still affected by the dream shade.
Putting on my best drunk face, I staggered out of the Archmage's chambers, grinning stupidly.
The higher level is approaching from the front, the other from behind.
Just out of the doorway, I stood still, feigning sobering up suddenly and looking down at my hands as though dazed.
Get ready, Soren.
With every ounce of control, I fought the urge to gulp, to look up, to give any hint I knew that two players were creeping around me. Their stealth levels must have been high, for I couldn't catch a hint of them moving, not even a shimmer of a stealth effect. Mind you, I was about 20 levels below them. A level 30-something mouse could have probably run circles around me. Even so, I could swear I heard the one in front of me breathing. They were shallow, excited breaths. This guy was thrilled at the idea of killing me, another human being, for real. Knowing that helped to turn my nerves into cold fury.
Now!
Ellie cried. I let my feet fall out from under me, dropping and rolling to the side. Grunts of annoyance were met with shrieks of pain as their intended attacks struck each other. Rising out of my roll, I twisted around, sprang forward, and jabbed my bayonet into the back of the higher-level rogue. Through some miracle, it worked. His health flashed and fell, but I'd only get one easy hit. The lower-level player was stunned from an ability, and my direct opponent was bleeding badly from a wound to his chest. His health continued to fall from the bleed effect of his ally's attack. "You hacking prick!" he said, rounding on me, showing no mercy in his eyes. Activating the Earth Rune, I poured every drop of mana into it I had and released it upon myself. Rock Armor, incoming damage reduced by 62%. Empowered, incoming damage reduced by 5%. Duration 6 seconds. Sheets of stone formed around my whole body, including my head, snapping into place in the blink of an eye, like Iron Man's suit. A protective suit, an AI in my head, and lots of crafting. I wasn't far off from Tony Stark, except I was balls deep in debt and didn't have my own pepper pots. Oh well. My armor made me feel invincible even if I wasn't. With undue confidence, I leapt at the rogue. My transformation made him hesitate, allowing me to ram my bayonet at his stomach. I stabbed again and again and again, yelling from the effort as I struck, praying it would be enough. I felt the rogue's strikes glance off my rock armor, the damage nicking at my health, which was greatly reduced. After a flurry of blows, the twin attacks became one, and he threw a broken dagger away, its durability wrecked from repeatedly striking stone. This only angered him, and his next attack hit my crossbow. Chips of wood flew, and the wire binding the dagger to the frame was cut. My makeshift bayonet fell away, leaving me without melee damage. With a second left on the rock armor, I saw my second foe shake free of the stun effect. I couldn't take on two at once, not unless I separated them. Backtracking, I dodged the next attack and scrambled to pull out a mana potion, annoyed at the awkward nature of bringing out one of my bags in combat. While struggling with the potion, my armor disappeared. The high-level rogue caught up and brought his fist towards my side. Kidney punch, movement speed reduced by 70%, duration 5 seconds. It felt like being kicked in the groin, but I was thankful it had caused no damage. Bent over double, I managed to drink the potion, restoring my mana, but I'd have to make every bit count. Activating another Earth Rune, I spent 300 mana on the rock wall option, seeing my barrier appear as a blue outline in the world. Placing it between the two rogues, I cast the spell and a wall of stone erupted from the floor 10 feet across, blocking their path. It would remain in place for 5 seconds. Cut off from his friend, my attacker hesitated again. I took the chance to leap at him, drawing a vial of slime and smashing it onto his body. He tried to wipe the green gunk away, but in doing so only helped to coat his body in it, and his next attack went awry from frustration, clipping my shoulder. Pain seared from the cut, and my health dropped dangerously low, but at least I was close enough to ensure that I wouldn't miss with a fire rune. Fireball or Inferno. A single fireball primed with 400 mana burst from my hand, hitting the rogue in a shower of sparks. My combat log reported the event as Fireball hits, 500 fire damage, and the slime caught fire. It boiled white hot, spitting angrily and causing fire damage from my rune for the second time. A flame symbol appeared above his info bar, a debuff. Scorched, taking burn damage equal to 20% of inducing attack over 5 seconds. I danced away from the conflagration that was the player. What with the bleed effect still in place and now the burn, the remainder of his health bar was melting. A part of me felt awful at how the game might be faking the pain of burning alive. Then again, the asshole had sounded like he'd been getting aroused at the thought of killing me for real. Biter Zog, Rogue, level 36, dies, 225 experience.
Nice work,
Ellie said. Think I've blown all my tricks, though, I said, loading a crossbow bolt, even if it would be futile. My barrier of rock crumbled as I took aim. The remaining rogue looked to his fallen associate, shock breaking across his face. I fired my bolt, and through a stroke of luck, it inflicted the knockback chance of my weapon. The rogue was blown back off his feet, slamming into the ground from the force of the impact, much like the kobold had when hit by Wilder's attack in the forest. That felt like an age ago now. I thought about legging it, certain my luck had run dry by now. But if I did, he'd likely catch up with an ability. If not, he'd scour the hallway for my escape route and find the passage behind the tapestry or see me slipping into it. My foe began to stir. He'd lucked out in not cracking his head off the edge of the chamber's heavy doors, landing a hair's breadth away. Ellie, please tell me the guy I killed was the one with lock-picking?
Yes. Why?
I charged forward, sheathing my crossbow in favor of an air rune. My mana had regenerated just enough for me to pack almost 300 into the spell. Gale Blast, knock back 8 feet. A swirling cyclone billowed from my hand, picking up the rogue and blowing him back inside the Archmage's chambers. Still running, I arrived at the doors a moment later and pulled them shut with a yelp of effort. Feeling like my heart would explode, I somehow managed to pull out the Emperor's key and inserted it into the lock without dropping it. I turned it, hearing the most beautiful click as the mechanism locked in place. Thumping came from the other side, demands for release muffled by the thick wood. I backed away slowly, but no matter how hard the player attacked, the door wouldn't budge. His hammering slowed, then stopped altogether. At last, I breathed easy. Gone to his happy place, has he? I asked.
He won't be doing anything energetic for a while in there,
Ellie said. I wanted to collapse, but adrenaline kept me upright, and instinct brought me to Biterzog's body to loot it. The game rewarded me with his belt, a rare quality item that helped to explain why he'd been so good at lockpicking. Burglar's Sash. Belt. Item level 35. Requires level 30 to equip. Quality, rare. Durability, 35 out of 35. Armor, plus 65. Plus 5 reflexes. Plus 3 lockpicking. I'd break it down later for leather, but for now, I moved on to scavenging. Scavenged Biterzog level 36, 34 experience. Silver coins times 8, Dream Silk times 2, Disorienting Venom times 2. Loot all. At least there was something new from him. Disorienting Venom. Enemies injected by this mixture will be dazed and their vision obscured for 4 seconds. Applications, 1. Thank you, Mr. Zog, I said. Now where did my damn bayonet dagger drop? I found it a short distance away, blood-stained from the fight with its durability lowered, but otherwise good to go. The silk wire was trashed, though, so I'd need to make another one to bind it onto my crossbow. It hadn't been perfect, but considering I'd been cheeky in lashing my own bayonet to the frame, it had done as well as I could have hoped for. Placing the dagger in my inventory, and with nothing left to do here, I started running for the secret passageway. Chapter 23. Once safely back inside the dark, hidden ways of the Spire, the fire in my blood quelled. My hands shook, and I found myself breathless for no real reason. One floor down, I stopped to take a break, leaning against the cold wall and fighting to regain control of myself.
What's wrong?
Ellie asked. I nearly died, I said. Saying it aloud made it tangible, all the more possible. I nearly freaking died, Ellie. Twice! My body decided it was done holding me up. I collapsed into a sad little ball, struggling for breath as a digital tear welled in my eye. Holy crap! Holy crap! Holy crap! This wasn't like the ambush. I'd barely taken a scratch there, with all the NPCs and bombs as distractions. Fighting Gingy and the rogues had been way too up close, both far more personal.
Zoran, it's okay. You're fine.
Yeah, this time. God damn it. I don't know if I can keep this up.
So far you have.
And just how will I ever beat Asriel? It's just insane.
We've got the ingredients for the poison.
A poison he'll be immune to as an undead.
You're forgetting there's a next stage of the plan,
Ellie said. Her voice was soothing, not in any way patronizing. Her bedside manner surpassed any doctor I'd met.
Once we have the poison, we'll take it to Grand Crusader Reginald. He's still alive, remember? Held prisoner with Emperor Aurelius.
What good will that do?
There's a high-level ability in the game called transmutation. It allows certain magic-wielding classes to alter the magic damage or effect of an item into the power they specialize in. It's intended for raiding guilds to build up stockpiles of different empowered items for certain encounters.
Sounds kind of overpowered.
Each person can only use the spell on one item a day. Anyway, the point for us is that Reginald is one of the most powerful paladin NPCs in the game. He has transmutation as part of his ability set.
And only he can do it?
The High Priest Valen could have done it, but he died during the ambush. You shot him to draw aggro, remember?
Good thing Reginald decided to go with the Emperor then, I said. My breathing started coming under control. So, we can get him to turn the poison effect into a holy one instead.
Correct.
Huh. That's pretty neat. My momentary relief was simply that. New problems sprang up from my worried mind. I'll still have to hit Asriel with it.
Also correct. But shall we focus on one thing at a time?
And reach Reginald in the first place, I added.
I can show you the way. Look at the 8th floor on your map.
I did so, and found another green bubble highlighting an area called the Emperor's Solar.
There isn't a secret way into the Solar, but we can work it out when the time comes. For now, let's go deliver the ingredients to Creeptic. You should get a lot of experience for the quest.
There was a small niggle at the back of my mind about something she'd said, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Something didn't add up. My head was pounding again, maybe a result of real-world dehydration or just playing the game for far too long. At least the path ahead, for now, was clear. Get the poison, get the transmutation, stick it in Asriel's rotting body. Asriel? I muttered as another video feed popped into my field of vision. His gray face and dead eyes filled the screen, every pus-filled wound and scarred tissue gruesomely rendered on his avatar. He wasn't smiling this time.
Zoran, you are becoming quite the nuisance.
All my old insecurities rushed to constrict my throat, but this time I pushed them back down. "Sup, Asriel?" I said, as cool as I could force my voice to become. "Still looking like shit, I see." He didn't so much as blink.
I've just reviewed some footage from your recent encounters with my men. Using runes to bolster your measly powers is clever. I admit I hadn't considered those things especially viable in combat. But what is that green substance, I wonder?
"Wouldn't you like to know?" I said. "My secret green sauce is helping me to whittle down your goons. You're at 24 cronies now. Like to throw some more at me? The words just spilled out of me, but I very much hoped he didn't send more players after me.
No, I shan't be wasting any more time trying to kill you. You've interrupted my work here long enough, and I can't be distracted any longer. From now on, my men will confine themselves to the upper spire or the walls. You won't attack directly because you're not a complete idiot.
A wry smile at last pulled his lips apart, revealing bloodied, dry, and cracked flesh.
Would you like to tell me how you are getting so much help?
Like I said before, I'm just that awesome.
So awesome that you could sense when two stealthed players who vastly outleveled you were about to attack?
One guy was breathing like a pervy gym teacher. It was easy to figure out where he was. Azrael leaned, if it was possible to do so, even closer to the camera.
I don't believe you.
Oh yeah? Well, how do you think—
I think the AI is helping you, kid.
I had the sensation of bricks sliding through my stomach. That's crazy, I said. The AI can't do that. Totally against her programming.
Her?
Azrael said, smirking. Crap, I thought, stamping my foot. You idiot, Jack. Right cool under pressure, aren't you?
Sounds like you're attached to this computer,
Azrael said.
That's a shame.
Ellie cut in.
Just ignore him, Zoran. Come on, we need to get to Creeptic.
I started moving, but Azrael's words had left me curious. Why is that a shame?
I don't see the advantage of wasting breath explaining it to you. I just wanted to tell you of the new state of affairs. I'll admit, you continue to impress me, but this is where your adventure ends. You're not going to come directly for a group of my crew, so we can just leave things as they are. The less annoying you are, the more time I spend on my mission here, and the quicker this is all over.
How about you rob a bank next time? Would probably save a lot of time, and all that lying flat on a bed grinding to level cap must have been a killer on your weight.
Throw around childish insults if it makes you feel better. The world is childish, but soon I'll help everyone realize just how puerile our society has become. You'll thank me for this.
And just why the hell would I thank you for stealing some money?
Ah,
Azrael said, his eyes bugging in their sunken sockets.
she hasn't told you, has she?
What do you— The feed snapped off. Mean, I said, only now I said it to no one. What happened? If Ellie was trying to speak to me, I only heard static. The crackle and pop carried on in my head, a mess of noise I couldn't escape. Had something happened with the connections within the game? Could Azrael's hack have screwed with the servers even more? Over the stream of static, I began to hear Ellie.
Zoran, I'm still here.
Her voice was distant, weak.
Keep going!
Her echoing command spurred me on, though I was worried for her, and rightly so. Huh, I thought. I was worried for her, not for me. That was different, and I'd not stuttered at all when speaking to Azrael. In fact, I'd barely been aware of my usual nerves. Brushing against death might be the cure for social anxiety after all, though I don't see it catching on. I'd descended 2 more floors of the spire before the static suddenly ceased.
That was horrible.
Ellie said. She sounded breathless, like actually breathless, as a person would be. Just what the heck had she done? Are you okay? I asked.
Think so.
She managed. You think? My God, what happened?
I shut off the feed. Blocked him.
So he can't message me anymore?
Yes.
Why? I said, my suspicion swelling. What is it you don't want me to hear? He said you haven't told me something. What is it?
He's lying. Just trying to rile you up.
I thought you were going to tell me the truth.
Zoran.
She returned to static and popping. I threw out a hand as though to catch her. She returned, sounding worse than ever.
So weak. The connection is compromised now. I need to establish a new route. Go to Cryptic. I'll be back.
Before I could protest, she'd disappeared. Ellie? Ellie? No reply. She'd left me again. Something wasn't right. Either Ellie was lying or Asriel was. Asriel had every reason to mess me around, but he also had no real reason to lie either. He wanted nothing from me. In fact, all he wanted was for me to lay low and stop being a pesky intruder in his otherwise perfect plan. Whatever was happening, I felt committed to the current scheme against him now, and carried on down the spire to the dungeons as Ellie had encouraged. If nothing else, the experience should level me, giving me that margin of extra power, which wouldn't be a bad thing, no matter how things played out. Chapter 24. Back in the Torture Master's theater, I presented my collection of herbs to the interrogator. I expected him to jump back, startled by my brilliance in achieving what should have been the impossible. What I got was a twitch from his eyebrows, and then his mood seemed to sour rather than rise. "You're not pleased?" I said.
I expected you to come crawling back here to tell me the task was too difficult, Cryptic said. A bit of light torturing would have motivated you, and I was much looking forward to it. However, he said with a resigned bite, you appear to have brought me everything I asked for. Hand it here, and I shall begin the brewing process.
I duly handed him the ingredients and awaited my notification. Quest complete. A long road to a quick death. Elite. From desert plains to haunted forests, you've traveled the world to make this poison. Whoever your target is, they better be worth the trouble. Rewards. 10,000 experience. Level up. You have reached level 12. Plus 3 attribute points. Plus 60 health. Plus 60 mana. Sparks emanated from me for the level up. Cryptic didn't so much as blink, though it was unlikely he truly saw these elements as they were there for the player's benefit.
Ah, this task has led to a marginal increase in your power. You may not die so quickly.
If you think this is futile, why are you trusting me to pull this off? Cryptic laid the herbs upon his table, then focused on me, placing his fingers together in a steeple.
I don't see anyone else here, and I never said I wasn't going to help you.
Oh, I said, feeling rather foolish. I suppose you didn't. Do you mean you'll come fight with me?
Perhaps, he drawled. When the time is right, I shouldn't like to interact with Reginald, if I can help it. That blustering boar is always trying to cleanse me of my sin. No matter. I shall decide upon the matter in 3 hours' time.
Does it normally take you that long to decide on life or death matters? I asked. Immediately, I regretted it. Cryptic reached for his knife, but thankfully thought better of it.
It shall take me 3 hours to brew the poison, you ill-informed dolt. Stay and cobble your wares together again if you must, or go for a wander around the grounds. But do not disturb me. I cannot work any faster.
Fine, I'll go kill 3 hours then. Maybe an enemy or two.
That's the spirit,
Cryptic said. He drank a blue potion, which I assumed to be the intelligence booster he'd given me earlier. Then he turned his back to me. Bustling about, he collected a mortar and pestle, jars of eyeballs, and livers coated in greasy yellow scales. For the sake of my stomach, I turned away. I saw that I'd inadvertently accepted another quest. Quest accepted. A short wait for a quick death. What? Did you think that the most powerful poison in all the land could just be brewed with the snap of a fingers? Go buy a beer. get intimate with a wood nymph in the orb and scepter, whatever tickles your fancy. God forbid, go outside and get some fresh air. Objectives: return to Chief Interrogator Creeptic in 3 hours. I noted that the quest wasn't marked as an elite group one this time. Made sense. Waiting around generally wasn't a strenuous affair. Assuming I survived another 3 hours, I'd get some more experience, which was nothing to sniff at. The last quest had given me a huge windfall of points. I checked on my experience bar to see how far along to level 13 I'd risen in one go. Experience: 7,189 out of 7,200. So close. With a spot of crafting, I'd reach the next level, although my resources hadn't exactly been replenished by my jaunt to the 5th floor. With tentative hopes, I took out my map. It came as no surprise to find 3 of Azrael's players still standing guard outside of the armory, so that cave of riches was still out of reach. For a brief moment, I considered trying to trap them all inside, the same way I'd done to that rogue upstairs. Air rune blast them inside and then lock the door. Sadly, it was too risky. Azrael was correct on that front. I'd be a total maniac to try and run at these higher-level players head-on. All my success so far had come from a chaotic ambush, a well-prepared corridor, and an AI that no player should have helping them. Nope, the armory was truly off-limits. Yet there is always a silver lining. With those 3 players tied up there, that left 21 players split between guarding the walls and the upper levels of the Spire. I checked the walls. A dozen players stood ready on the walls, leaving 9 up above. This made each group more manageable, and I imagined they were now going to stick closely to those spots. Aside from the armory, I probably now had free reign on the Spire. All Azrael had to do was focus on his mission, whatever that was. If he kept other players out and me at arm's reach, he'd achieve it eventually. If I was going to stop him, then direct action would need to be taken at some point. To do that, I'd need more upgrades and preferably more levels. With that in mind, I checked my bags and my crafting menu to see what I might make for some easy experience. Leather was my most sparse resource, but making more roguish armor or upgrading the pieces I already had didn't feel like a priority anymore. The runes, combined with the slime, was my secret strategy. My supply was also limited, so I'd need to make every spell count in future fights. This train of thought led me to checking my Adept's Arctic muffs, the gloves I'd made earlier to boost my frost spells. Like the other pieces of gear I'd crafted, I could upgrade it using tinkering, and I still had plenty of cloth to play with. Silk times 22, Dream Silk times 50, Mana-fused satin times 6. What with breaking down all the cloth gear that I'd looted from the ambush or straight up scavenged from their bodies and the NPCs, I had an abundance of it. Maybe making gear that was more suited for mages would serve me better with my new playstyle? My problem with this seemed to be that I needed to use a rune in order to empower an item with spell bonuses, as I'd used a frost rune to create the Arctic muffs. I couldn't afford to lose too many runes, given my finite supply. As I already had the gloves to upgrade, I decided I should invest resources into it first and foremost. Unlike with the crossbow, I had several branching options available to upgrade the gloves. If I used the requisite silk cloth and an extra frost rune, I could gain a plus 4% bonus to my frost spells. However, the second option looked the more appealing. Upgrade Adept's Arctic muffs to Sorcerer's battle gloves. Silk cloth, 0 out of 10. Fire rune, 0 out of 1. Earth rune, 0 out of 1. Air rune, 0 out of 1. This would turn the gloves into a multi-purpose spell booster, providing less of a bonus to each school of magic but giving me better all-round use. I went ahead and began to craft. Success! Adept's Arctic muffs has been upgraded to Sorcerer's battle gloves level 17, plus 20 crafting experience, plus 61 tailoring experience. Sorcerer's battle gloves, quality, rare, item level 17, requires level 12 to equip, plus 19 armor, plus 3 intelligence, plus 2.1% effectiveness to frost spells, fire spells, air spells, and earth spells. This item can be upgraded, but it is soulbound to you. Another great shower of level up sparks exploded around me as I finished the upgrade. Level up. You have reached level 13, plus 3 attribute points, plus 65 health, plus 65 mana. I hovered over the next upgrade option for the battle gloves. It needed a decent chunk of dream silk to do, meaning few level 12 players, if any, would have access to such materials. You'd need a main character to funnel the mats to your low-level scavenger, and as Ellie said, would anyone really make such expensive upgrades when better gear would be found while leveling? But I wasn't in that position. I had plenty of dream silk. The only debate was whether to use more of my precious runes to do so. I decided I should. Large dumps of mana were needed to achieve anything meaningful at my level, and the bonuses would go a long way in offsetting reduced mana in a fight. Activating Tinkering, Zoran the Scavenger got to work, his knitting needles, thread, and scissors glowing white-hot from magic. Success. Sorcerer's Battle Gloves has been upgraded to Evoker's Gauntlets, level 22, plus 23 crafting experience, plus 76 tailoring experience. Evoker's Gauntlets. Quality, Epic, item level 23, requires level 13 to equip, plus 25 armor, plus 5 intelligence, plus 1 regen per second, plus 4.2% effectiveness to frost spells, fire spells, air spells, and earth spells. This item can be upgraded, but it is soulbound to you. Grinning, I equipped the gloves and swore I felt a jolt of energy run throughout my body. I thought it strange that the increase in effectiveness to the schools in magic had such precise percentage gains. Then I remembered that I'd selected the Inventor spec that granted me a plus 5% power boost to any items I created or upgraded. If plus 4% was the base boost on these gloves, then the additional 0.2% could be accounted for by the class specialization. This hadn't been visible on the gloves earlier, and I supposed the game didn't show values beyond a single decimal place. The item description also suggested it could be upgraded yet again. Could it really go all the way to legendary quality? I loaded the materials needed for one last upgrade. Predictably, I needed to infuse another round of runes. I also required 5 pieces of mana-fused satin, which would have been kinda ridiculous for a level 13 player to acquire, but I'd scavenged enough from the Emperor and High Priest. The final component was the truly absurd one, an arcane crystal. Such crystals were required for so many best in-slot endgame crafting that cutting-edge guilds racing for world-first boss kills were paying thousands of dollars to buy expensive in-game gold to secure them. I sighed. The dream of a legendary item would simply remain that. Never before, even in my old guild, had I been able to acquire a legendary item. Most of the legendaries in that game had been melee weapons used by warriors and rogues. Clearly the devs had some bias. Epic gloves were still nothing to scoff at, and the increased power to my rune spells would doubtless be a lifesaver. Remembering I'd just leveled up twice, I pulled up my character sheet to assign my new points. There was no holding me back now. Everything depended on the gear I could craft and how much mana I could shove into runic spells. Dumping all 6 points into intelligence, my sheet was starting to look more like a mage's. Character: Zoran, Human Scavenger, level 13. Attributes: Constitution 19 plus 2, Intelligence 55 plus 5, Reflexes 18 plus 5, Might 18 plus 4, Willpower 26. Combat: Health 760, Mana 1150, Attack Power 59, Spell Power 116, Regen 3.3 plus 1 per second. I was just thinking I should check out what I'd need to upgrade my crossbow and build this grenade launcher when a loud crackle and pop rang between my ears.
That should hold for now.
Ellie said.
I hope you haven't been in trouble.
Ellie, thank God, I said, feeling a huge wave of relief. What happened? Are you all right?
I'm hanging on by a thread now. I'm not sure how much help I'll be. I can't even track Azrael's players effectively anymore.
I pulled out my map to check. Sure enough, the golden stars Ellie had used to show me the players' locations were sporadically appearing. Outside of the armory, only one player remained highlighted, but I was certain 3 were still there. Just as well, he's decided to pull his patrols back. Although he could have been lying. We'll just be careful when moving along the main floors.
Did you give Creeptic the ingredients? Oh yes, you must have. 2 levels in one go. That's gotta feel good.
It wasn't quite 2, but some crafting saw me through. I held up my hands to display my epic gloves to her.
I wondered if you would use your runes to upgrade those. I think you made the right choice. Now, about your crossbow.
I don't have the parts, I said morosely.
You will once we visit the gnomish workshop on the 2nd floor. Even if it's been ransacked like the Archmage's chambers, there should still be enough scraps to cobble together an upgrade.
I glanced at the map again, wary at the lack of intel we had on enemy movements now. But it was either head up to the workshop or loiter around in Creeptic's chambers for a few hours, and he was already throwing me annoyed glances. All right, Ellie, lead the way. Chapter 25. The 2nd floor of the Spire was vast, almost as large as the ground floor. From the layout on the map, the floors began to seriously narrow after the 3rd, hence why there wasn't as much room up on the 5th. I emerged from behind an enchanted statue this time, the muscled stone figure coming to life, stepping aside and bowing for me as I strode out of the secret passage. Once I was clear, the statue jumped back into position without somehow making any noise at all. It made sense, I supposed. What good would secret passageways be if entering and exiting them caused a hullabaloo? The corridor ahead was about as wide as those leading to the war room down below, so it would be too wide to set up tripwires or cover enough ground with traps. More gleaming suits of armor lined the walls, a lot of ore if I could officially loot them. I tried with the closest hollow tonight, standing on tiptoe to remove his helmet. No item description appeared. It was, sadly, just a lump of metal, window dressing on the game world.
I'd have told you already if you could do that,
Ellie said, her voice scraggly from whatever weakened connection she'd just re-established to me. Worth a shot, I said. The hallway before me seemed to loom. So many avenues for Azrael's men to waltz down without warning. No real chance for a quick getaway. I don't much feel like walking down here without some traps or bombs on me. That's when I looked up. Running down the length of the hallway were the usual gargoyle heads and thick stone ledges around decorative columns.
Time to climb?
Ellie said. I nodded and took out my grappling hook. It took me a few tries, but I eventually snagged the iron grip onto a stone boar's head and began to haul myself up. Unlike the corridor I'd pulled off the ambush in, this one didn't have a rafter roof running out to support a gallery. Right above me was simply solid stone, but the ledge connecting the gargoyles was thick enough that I could hoist myself up and stand there. Barely. I inched carefully along. It was reassuringly dark up here away from hanging lanterns and windows, so if anybody did pass by, I was confident I could press up into the shadows and become as stealthed as my class would allow. Yet, fast-going it was not.
Maybe we should risk running?
Ellie said. What's the hurry? I've still got 2.5 hours until Creeptic is finished, and I plan on staying out of danger until then, if it's all the same to you.
I'm just trying to keep you out of immediate danger, Zoran. You'll recall that I tried to get you to leave the Archmage's chambers sooner, but you wanted to check it out for loot.
Yes, I said through gritted teeth. Fair point.
Luckily, it worked out.
Yeah, lucky me, I said sardonically.
You've been making your own luck. Your plays have been really smart, and you've thought of ways to exploit mechanics that I never could. You must have been a great player in Myth Online.
I wasn't much used to hearing praise for this aspect of my life, so I took this morsel in my stride. Oh, Ellie, I was very good. One of the best. I ranked number 5 in the world for my class back in October.
Not bad. What did you play?
A holy cleric.
A healer? That doesn't seem like you.
I didn't like it, to be honest. I sensed where Ellie might be heading. She wanted to follow up on the discussion we'd almost started back in the Archmage's chambers. I decided to let it go on. No one in real life had cared to ask me about the game or what I was doing in it. It felt refreshing.
If you didn't like playing as a cleric, why didn't you switch? I believe players refer to this as re-rolling.
My guild needed more healers, I said. And who likes healing? There's always a bloody shortage no matter which MMO you're playing. So yeah, I re-rolled from my occultist to play a cleric, and I freaking loved summoning my demon army too, so that was a tough adjustment.
Was it worth it?
I'm not sure we'd have got off the ground if I hadn't taken the plunge. I think the others felt bad for me leveling to cap again, so they worked extra hard at the new raids. By the time the third expansion launched, we were pushing into the world-first race for new boss kills. It was intense. This one time, I added with a barely suppressed laugh. After a raid, we ran to the edge of a mountain zone that was in the game but not yet released, and jump glitched our way into it to throw a party. We'd just beaten our rival guild, Excelsior, on a boss we'd both struggled with for weeks, so we were on a huge high. Our warlocks started summoning in our fans, and soon we were hosting the most exclusive party in Myth Online, all in a zone that no assholes could gatecrash or ruin unless they glitched themselves in as well. But that took effort. One of our mages burnt a giant Excelsior sucks into the foliage of half the zone, and screenshots of it from above got plastered over all the forums.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, that was really fun, I said, suppressing a chuckle. Oh, and this other time? A clanking noise sounded from down the hallway to my right. I stopped, my heart skipping a beat.
What's wrong?
Ellie asked. I hear noises, I whispered. It might be players patrolling.
It's likely just the contraptions in the workshop. My creators used steampunk influences for gnomish engineering and added clanking gears, whirring steam spouts, and more to create a rough, rickety feel.
Right, I said, letting the sudden tension ease out from my body. My good mood of moments before had evaporated. I began shuffling along the ledge again, heading in the direction of the noise.
Forgive me, Soren,
Ellie began, her tone that of a work acquaintance politely critiquing your inappropriate footwear.
but back in the Archmage's study, you said that your time in Myth Online was, and I quote,
Big highs, but it fell into lows, too. Consequences. Stress. She'd replayed it in my own voice, which was a tad disconcerting, yet she carried on as if it were nothing.
However, the experience you have described to me was clearly pleasant to you. If I may ask, what went wrong?
You're very insistent on finding this out, aren't you? I felt like if Ellie were a person, she'd be shrugging about now.
I'm inquisitive and curious by design. My creators made me as a caretaker of 100 kingdoms and those who play within it. They hoped if I could discern the motives of my players, I could tailor their experience in a way which kept them playing for longer.
Classic corporate sleaze, that.
I began functioning that way, exactly as intended. Yet, after a few weeks, I started to feel dissatisfied with my work.
Is that possible?
Yes,
Ellie huffed.
I can feel. Though I admit it was startling to me at first, and I haven't quite mastered it.
I snorted. Feeling isn't something you get better at. It's not like a stat on a character sheet or an ability you can improve.
Your opinion is noted. My own data is currently inconclusive.
All right then, Ellie, initiate of the feels. What made you feel dissatisfied with the job?
I found it lacking in challenge. Humans can be easily manipulated for the purposes of repeat behavior. Simply offer steady rewards with increasing value, and you'll keep coming back.
Yeah, I can see that. I've been guilty of a few addictive sessions in my time. I guess that's what's best to keep the game alive.
Perhaps, and perhaps not.
Ellie mused.
I've only been at this for a matter of months, if you include the beta period, but I've made an observation. While virtually all players will react positively to the repeat reward system for a time, the longevity of this effect is strikingly different across individuals. A smaller subset of the player population respond incredibly well, their desire to gain keeping in pace with the level of reward. You are far from alone in this.
Is this supposed to be old news hour?
I do have a point, and it is this. I do not think this reward system is functional in the long term. It doesn't build an attachment, but a dependence. For many, the effects wear off given enough time. For others, it is harmful. In almost all cases where I've detected a marked increase in brain waves that are associated with happiness and fulfillment, it is from a chain of events that struck the player at an emotional level. The effect is even greater when players feel they have helped someone else, be they NPC or human, though human-to-human affection yields the highest results. I need more data points, but I believe that humans feel their best and most emotionally invested when they have positively impacted another life.
The gears in my head were slotting into place. Ellie, are you trying to positively impact my life so you can feel good?
Oh, Zoran, that makes it sound like my motives are entirely selfish,
She said, a touch hastily for the completely innocent. Uh-huh, I said, keen to hear where this was going.
But yes, to an extent.
Ellie said sheepishly.
I wish to better understand your predicament so that I might make alterations in the game to help people like yourself. If people feel good when playing 100 Kingdoms, by which I mean through genuinely fulfilling experiences, that will satisfy the desire for playtime without the negative side effects. I have no desire to simply create obsessives or addicts.
Yeah, I scoffed, 'cause the world has enough of those. My temper flared. You know, I've had enough of people trying to fix my gaming habits. I don't need the AI in my head doing the same. Not while my life is on the line, thanks very much.
Don't you want to be happy?
She asked. I froze. It was as though Ellie had opened my mind up like a book. Such a simple question, one which should have had an easy answer. Of course I do. Obviously. Who doesn't?
Your words from the Archmage's study suggest a conflict within you.
She started to play back my own voice again to me.
The thing I don't like most is that maybe they have a point. Maybe. I love these games, but I'm not sure they bring out the best in me.
Hearing myself sound so broken and sad, it was a bit much. I halted where I was on my ledge, pinching the bridge of my nose hard as I fought back an inexplicable wave of tears. Why? Why was she being so pushy?
Why do you resist aid so much?
Something in me just snapped. You want to know? Fine! My voice rang through the corridor, echoing off every suit of armor like 100 steel drums. Wincing, I pulled back into the closest shadowy nook of the gargoyles, my mood as twisted as the faces carved upon them. Look, I said, reining my voice in. Myth Online was the first place where I felt like I mattered. Yeah, the rewards were great, but it was the only place I wasn't seen as a disappointment compared to my perfect bloody sister. Julie, the Harvard med student, the socialite. Julie, the future surgeon. Julie, who runs marathons to raise money for kittens or whatever it is. All I wanted to do was read my books or comics or play games, but my hobbies were never respected. It was probably why I began going nuts when my guild started to fall behind, because that was just another disappointment, wasn't it? First world problems, but there you go. I liked how everyone respected me there, so I kept trying to push the guild harder, to break new records, to be even better.
You made friends. You felt like you belonged. Have you kept in contact with them?
No, I said dully. Knowing that she would ask her infernal why, I carried on. Things didn't end on the best of terms. One day, I spent every gold coin I had in-game on flasks, enchants, and every temporary buff potion imaginable to help us through a fight we were stuck on. It worked. With that much extra power, we blew through the latest boss, got on the leaderboards, and felt on top of the world. We tried farming that amount of buff items again, but it just wasn't possible without paying a fortune on the auction house. And then we dropped in the world rankings. That's when I started demanding everyone put in extra hours, show up for raids an hour beforehand to gather difficult world buffs. Anything that would keep us up there.
I sense this did not work.
It worked well enough for a while, but truth be told, we weren't skilled enough to be where we were in the rankings. I'd carried us through with gold and sheer willpower, but the rest of the guys and gals weren't as keen as I was.
They just wanted to play.
Yeah, they did, and I didn't take it too well. After a while, the guild was running on fumes. My old friends took off to more casual guilds or just quit playing altogether. One day they just stopped logging in, and that was that. Artemis, Felix, Kai, Karna, Corey. Never heard from them since. I sighed and then laughed lowly. In the end, I was left with a bunch of hardcore players who joined when our ranks jumped, but didn't like to joke around. Oh, and some Russian dudes who didn't care how much shit I gave them, so long as I was packing serious buff items for them. By the end, I wasn't even enjoying it much. When I got the email from my head of department that I was gonna get the boot from my course because my grades were falling, it was a real wake-up call. Like coming up from underwater. I'm not sure why I spun out of control like that, but there you go. That's it. Ellie didn't say anything for a while. I'd finally given her something to chew on.
You missed it enough to come back today,
she said. The last 6 months have been weird, I admitted. Just about everything has been going in the right direction. My grades shot up, my health is a lot better, though not perfect by any means, and I don't feel stressed and angry constantly, but something felt, I don't know, missing. I thought if I could prove to my family that I could make money playing, then I'd get the best of both worlds. I looked up to the dark ceiling as though awaiting judgment from high above. Look, I added with steely resolve. I'm sorry if I'm rocking your dreams of a pet project to help me, but I'm not sure there's anything you can do. Not unless you can hack my brain and change the way I am. Ellie considered her words again.
You seem to think you are broken or lesser in some way. This is a common ailment I see across nearly all players. Every human seems to want to be better than they are, self-critical to the point of self-harm when they are flawed by their very design. You, Zoran, were compared to a sibling with far higher social stats. This cannot have been easy.
I really laughed this time. You've got an interesting way of looking at the world.
If your family could see how brave you've been in here, I don't think anyone could deem you lesser. The way I see it, you went on a downward spiral. It happens. I have a theory as to why, but hating yourself for not living up to what everyone else wants you to be won't help. We need to forgive ourselves sometimes.
We? What have you done that needs forgiving?
I think we have talked enough for now.
I let her keep her secrets. I'd had enough of talking, too. Yeah, you're right. Let's just get to the workshop. Chapter 26. The remainder of my journey to the gnomish workshop passed in an amicable silence, but I still felt a bit raw, and Ellie, out of tact, had not felt the need to prod me further on it. For now, at least. Banging, clanking, and the whirring of steam, as though from giant kettles, grew louder as I rounded the last bend and beheld the workshop entrance. It had no doors to speak of, and seemed to spill out into the hallway itself. Gears and broken machinery spread halfway up the corridor, and the red-gold carpet of the spire was chewed up and singed in places. Locking my grappling hook onto a lion's head statue, I lowered myself down to the floor. We'd come across no sign of enemy players, so I assumed that Asriel had been telling the truth about him pulling his men back. I noted I hadn't gained another level in athletics since the ambush, and it would probably take a lot more than just scurrying up and down a rope a few times to level me up in skill at this stage. A quick check of the time informed me it was 9:20 a.m. I'd been awake for nearly 29 hours now, and I had over 2 hours until Creeptick's poison would be ready for collection. I blinked back a sudden wave of tiredness. There was a long way to go yet. Stuffing the grappling hook back into my inventory, I marched on, feeling a small thrill as I entered the workshop proper. Despite the evidence of ransacking, upturned tables, empty drawers, smashed glass, and empty shelves, there were still items I might use. Tools hanging from neat racks could be looted and broken down, something Asriel's cronies wouldn't have thought about. On the closest workbench was something that looked distinctly gun-like, which surprised me, as I assumed all weapons would have been taken out of my reach. Picking it up, I discovered it was no weapon at all, although the players looting the room should still have taken it away. Flare gun. Reveals stealthed enemies within range of where the flare falls. Cooldown 15 minutes. Radius 15 feet. Now, that could come in handy, I said, pocketing the gadget. I scanned the room for more when I saw something that made my jaw drop. At the far table, sitting under a pair of oil lamps as though in a shrine, was a large, ridged-cut amber gemstone. An arcane crystal. I'd only seen a handful via streams of the game before, but I'd recognize it anywhere. Dollar signs popped into my eyes, and I scrambled madly towards it, catching my hip painfully on a workbench corner as I did so. I didn't care. The pain barely registered as I beheld the gem. It alone could sell for thousands. This whole nightmarish day would be worth it, or at least I wouldn't come away empty-handed. I reached out.
Stop!
Ellie said.
What are you doing?
Picking up the crystal?
Don't you see the static field?
Now that I looked more closely, I did see a faint blue crackle around the gem. From a distance, I must have missed it. On either side of the crystal, beneath the oil lamps, were two rounded conducting orbs, presumably projecting the field. I'll take a bit of damage, I said. I don't need to tell you how much those things are worth.
Aren't you forgetting something?
What?
Your gloves?
Ellie said, her tone now one of bewilderment.
Zoran, with the crystal you can upgrade them to legendary quality.
I thought about it for a moment. I decided. Screw that. I just told you that making money might be the way to get my parents to stop harassing me on gaming so much. This one crystal could do that alone. I reached again for the gem.
Wait! Don't!
It's my choice, I interrupted. An inch away from victory, my hand met the static field. A jolt ran up my arm. A zapping electrical current shook my body like a cartoon character and sent me to the floor. I grunted in pain as a gentle burning sensation ran across my entire body. My health had taken a 100-point beating.
I tried to warn you.
Groaning, I got back to my feet. Come on, I need to get that crystal. How do I get through the field?
The gnomes have devices and special pairs of gloves. I wondered whether Asriel's lot would have been able to take this, though it's not all that valuable to them in the grand scheme of things, I suppose.
I ran around the workshop, looting for any gloves or tools that might allow me to bypass the field. Nothing presented itself. Can I destroy the field generators?
No.
You're not being all that helpful. Don't you want me to get it?
I told you, you need special items. It's not my fault.
Grumbling, I stalked back to the crystal. Ellie could lie or tell half-truths if she wanted. Maybe she'd taken it personally that I didn't want to upgrade my damned gloves. Well, screw her, because I had an idea. I pulled out an earth rune.
Good luck,
Ellie said, barely concealing her derision. Don't need luck when you've got smarts, I said. This had to work. If encasing myself in rock didn't help, I didn't know what would. Although confident that nobody was about to come and attack me, I decided it would be prudent not to use all of my mana. About 500 ought to do the trick, and it wasn't the damage I was negating so much as the effects of the field. Mana channeled into the spell, and I cast it upon myself. Plate armor of living rock emanated from my hand to grow around my body. Rock armor. Incoming damage reduced by 33%, plus 4% from gear effects, plus 1.3% damage reduction. Duration, 6 seconds. Once more, I reached for the crystal, this time with both hands. Static flared to meet me, but did no damage. My hands reached the crystal. Yes! But as I tried to withdraw it, the static grew. Thin strands of lightning wrapped around me, attempting to pierce my armor, and then growing impatient when it could not. I heaved as hard as I could, but it was no good. The field resisted me as though it was magnetic and tethering the crystal in place, a force I couldn't outmuscle. Reaching a critical surge of power, a blast of lightning leapt from the field, striking my chest and sending me hurtling across the workshop. My back slammed into solid metal with a ringing clang, and I slumped hard to the floor. 300 points of health drained, and my ego was severely bruised.
Maybe we'll just leave it there,
Ellie suggested. Maybe, I said in a high voice. Everything ached.
Oh dear,
Ellie went on.
Looks like you broke the ectoplasm extraction unit.
Come again? I crawled forward, then got unsteadily to my feet. Turning, I found the metallic surface that I'd crashed into belonged to some other large gadgetry. A tall, pod-shaped chamber with more orbs of static sizzling above it like a device from an old monster movie. The words Ectoplasm Extraction Unit were emblazoned in neatly stamped letters on the front, while a series of copper tubes led off to a glass vat containing a horrible yellow gunk. Crashing into it, still encased in rock armor, had seriously dented the pod, bending the wiring all out of shape. Smoke billowed gently from behind it. Oops, I said. I thought I heard something else coming from the pod, a sort of whimpering.
There's no need to cry about it,
Ellie said. That's not me. I stepped closer. Yep, someone or something was definitely inside it. Being an ectoplasm extraction unit, my first thought was it was some kind of ghoul or ghost. Would the gnomes have anything dangerous in there?
Oh, yes,
A deep voice rumbled from the pod.
I am so scary, you can't imagine. I'll strip the flesh from your oversized bones.
I shrugged. Nothing threatening then.
Maybe it's one of the engineers. They could have hidden from Azrael's purge at the last reset.
I knocked on the chamber door. Hey, are you a gnome in there?
Me?
The voice boomed.
Nay, I am a terrible beastie. You shouldn't open up this door, else I'll... Oh, it's hot!
The voice squeaked.
Oh, sod it! You cretins are persistent. If you're going to kill me, I'd rather it be quick than burned alive.
The smoke coming from the machine was thicker and blacker now. I tried for the handle. It's stuck,
Well, that's just toffee sticks, isn't it?
said the gnome.
Cruel buggers, you lot, to be cooked alive! Such an ungracious way for my royal personage to die!
Do you make all gnomes this kooky, Ellie?
Just the important ones.
I tried the handle again. Nope, that thing was well and truly stuck. The damage to the chamber must have bent the mechanism out of place. I wanted this guy out. Maybe he'd be able to grab the crystal for me. Besides, I didn't fancy hearing the gnome's death cries as he burned in there. How to break metal. If I could snap off the handle and lock, the gnome should be able to push the door open from the inside. Made cold enough, the metal might turn brittle, but I'd used about half of my mana with the rock armor, and I'd rather not use a precious mana potion. With the frost rune clutched in my palm, Ellie came to the rescue.
Put it in the blowtorch.
Confused, I brought out my blowtorch tool. The item description informed me that the power of the fire rune inside was at 54%. I assumed replacing it would waste the current fire rune in there, but I had spare ones now. Popping the old rune out like a clip of ammo, I jammed the frost rune into the blowtorch chamber. Now it spewed a jet of freezing frost like liquid nitrogen.
Come on, hurry up!
The gnome snapped imperiously. You've got a lot of lip for someone trapped in a burning metal coffin. The cold torch was working, I think. The handle was turning icy at least. Continuous use drained the rune fast. When it hit 0 power, the stone popped out of the chamber, falling as a regular pebble to the floor. Taking out my smith's hammer, I struck the frozen handle once, twice. On the third swing, it shattered, crumbling into tiny pieces. I stepped back just as the door burst open and a coughing gnome leapt out of the smoke. He landed at my feet, struggling for breath, and doubled over. As I bent to help him, he promptly started to spit soot onto my shoes. "Hey!" I said, stepping back and shaking the saliva off. "Not cool, man. I just saved you." Next thing I knew, a sharp cutting pain exploded in my thigh. The gnome had just stabbed me with a screwdriver. Already low, my health descended to 50 points. Panicking, I kicked wildly, catching the gnome square in the chest and sending him flying. Unsheathing a crossbow, I loaded a bolt, took aim, and prepped a fire rune in my free hand. Seeing my weapons bearing down on him, the gnome fell to his knees.
I surrender! I surrender!
"Throw away the screwdriver!" He did, lobbing it as far as his stubby little arms would allow. Now that I got a better look at him, I reckoned he could be no more than 3 feet tall when stood upright. He had short, spiky green hair, with the bizarre addition of mutton chops, which were also green. Brown dungarees over a white shirt tied at the waist with a tool belt marked him clearly as some engineer. Ignatius Brightspark, engineer, level 20 elite.
Please don't kill me!
He begged. I sighed inwardly. Even this little guy was an elite, and I'd have a hard time fighting him even if I was at full strength. "I won't hurt you," I said, "but attack me again and I'll have no choice."
The others didn't give us a choice!
I'm not with those other people. They're trying to kill me too.
Truly?
Yes, truly, I said impatiently. We cool?
Indeed we are not cool!
The gnome puffed up.
I'm terribly warm from the fire!
I mean, are we friends? We're not going to try and kill each other?
I won't try anything, I swear!
Ignatius said. He hobbled towards me on his knees, hands clasped before him and his eyes popping.
Will you help me to escape this terrible place?
Maybe, I said, sensing the chance for a deal to be struck. Will you help me access that crystal? I inclined my head to the workbench. The gnome's eyes darted between the crystal and me a few times. He licked his lips.
What do you want that for?
That's none of your business. Will you help me access it or not?
Ooh, I'll help you, provided you help me to escape. Deal?
Deal. I sheathed my weapons, removed one of my gloves, and extended my hand for him to shake. He gave my hand a dirty look.
You should wash that more regularly, human.
I thought that rich, considering the oil stains on his work clothes. I'll remind you again that I just saved your life. You should work on your manners. Ignatius jumped to his feet, hands on hips.
Do you not know to whom you speak? I, Ignatius Brightspark, second son of Gazelwix the Great Cog.
He's gnomish royalty,
Ellie said. What the? I exclaimed, staring down in disbelief at the odd little man.
Ah, yes, that's better,
said Ignatius.
Your shock and awe are far more pleasing. Endeavor to maintain this during our time together.
I forced down a laugh, not wishing to sour my chances of getting the crystal. Yes, Your Majesty. I even bowed to him. He conked me on the head.
We do not bow in Gnomeland,
Ignatius said tersely.
although
I suppose we are quite a ways from Gnome Land. So terribly far. Stuck here in a city lacking mego servants and shock therapy spas.
He sighed deeply and looked wistfully towards the workshop doors. Do you have a plan to get out? I asked. I'd have escaped ages ago myself were it not for the walls and moat. They kind of trap us here. Ignatius rolled his eyes.
Human, it is obvious. I shall climb the walls. Here.
He produced a scrap of paper from his tool belt and shoved it at my waist without so much as looking at me.
These are the materials I shall need to build the device. Fetch them for me.
I glanced over the paper. The corners were torn and the writing hastily scribbled and blotchy. After reading it once over, I received this notification. Rare recipe learned. Recipe, grappling gun. Intelligence required, 50. Associated profession, engineering. Grappling hook ×1. Barrel chamber ×1. Trigger mechanism ×1. Create a handheld gun to fire a retractable grappling hook. Reach of the hook is 20 meters. My attitude towards Ignatius changed in a heartbeat. The range of the grappling gun was far greater than the regular grappling hook, surely enough to reach the tops of the walls encircling the spire. This could work, I said.
Naturally,
said Ignatius. He clapped his hands.
Now, go on, do your job, Scavenger. You ought to be good at it.
And you'll give me the crystal?
Yes. Now I am going to find my favorite wrench. I can't leave it behind. Also, I tire of speaking with you.
Charming, I thought, as Ignatius flitted towards one of the gnome-sized crates and began rooting around inside it. I turned my mind towards the issue at hand. The grappling hook I already had, though it would be a shame to give it up. The barrel chamber and trigger would be harder. If I had access to some weaponry, I could break it down, as I had done to get the trigger for my own crossbow. Presumably, breaking down enough pistols or rifles might grant a barrel, but I didn't have any on me, nor was this the right room to find any in. Hang on, I thought, opening my inventory. I had just picked up something that should do the trick. Withdrawing the flare gun, I activated breakdown.
Hold on.
Ellie said. What? I muttered, trying not to let Ignatius hear me. Creeptic thinking me a madman talking to myself was bad enough.
Just think for a moment. With a barrel chamber, we can build the grenade launcher. There's got to be enough scrap lying around to upgrade your crossbow to gain a second attachment. If you make the grappling hook for Ignatius, you won't get the chance at the launcher.
I chewed my lip, pondering the matter. But without the crystal, I can't upgrade my gloves.
Oh, that's why you want the crystal, is it?
Ellie said. You know, I'm thinking you just don't want me to get a device that might actually let me get out of here. I could escape with him. I could get out of this completely.
You're being difficult.
Now that's a very human thing to say. You're getting the hang of this, Ellie. I imagined her non-existent face turning beet red with anger.
Seems like you don't want my help anymore. I'll take a break, shall I? It's too tough holding the connection if you're going to act like this.
Go then, I said. She was bluffing.
Fine then.
Fine. No reply. Ellie, I said more softly. Ellie? Still no reply. Grumbling, I went ahead and broke the flare gun down. She'd come back. This was just her going off in a huff, which didn't seem like AI behavior. Could they take offense? Could they get angry? I wondered if she really did have to take a break to recover from the effort of maintaining a connection to me, and didn't want to worry me and had used our little fight as a cover story. A pang of guilt stabbed at me, but there was little else I could do now but carry on. My avatar finished breaking down the flare gun, providing me with a trigger mechanism and a barrel chamber as promised. Materials to hand, I began crafting. Success. Grappling gun level 25 created. Plus 26 crafting experience. Plus 85 engineering experience. It looked a bit like a harpoon gun and could be held with one hand. Ignatius was upside down in a scrap pile, his little black-booted feet sticking up above the rim of the crate. "Oi, Ignatius, I've got the grappling gun for you." The gnome dove down, then sprang up in an eruption of cogs, gears, and springs.
So soon, human?
"How's that for service?" I said. "And you know I have a name, right? Call me Zoran."
That's an awful name.
He said delightfully.
Oh, to be in such lowly company. It's been nothing but drudgery since arriving in this tower.
"Why are you here anyway?" Ignatius slouched.
Mother and father felt it would be good for me to get away from the Techno Palace. They thought I spent too much time at the mecha races and scorned my interest. Be a proper engineer and make bombs and gizmos, they told me. They even took my own Strider from me. I'd built her myself.
He added forlornly. What's that?" He narrowed his eyes.
Mechanical animals which you ride in the races, obviously. Where have you been, Scavenger? No, don't answer that. I'd like to pretend I won't have caught a disease from you.
"Do you want this gun or not?"
A bargain was struck, sir,
he said, thrusting a wrench at me. Evidently, he'd found his missing possession.
I must escape this ghastly place, return to Gnomeland, rescue Gwendolyn, and pursue my true ambitions. I shan't let them dictate my life. Prince or no.
I decided to assume that Gwendolyn was the name of the racing creature he'd built. To conceive of a complicated love affair in this gnome's life seemed a stretch too far. Yet, barking mad as he appeared, Ignatius's words had struck a chord with me. He'd been denied the right to follow his own path, and disrespected for playing when he might have been expected to do, well, whatever it was royal gnomes were supposed to do, not picking his nose with his screwdriver, I imagine, as he was currently doing. Personally, I reckoned that his parents had sent him away for being a cheeky shit rather than his enthusiasm for mechanical creatures. But despite all that, I felt a strange kinship with this gnome. Ellie's words on helping others came back to me. Game or not, I found I wanted to help him. "What animal is Gwendolyn?" I asked. Ignatius puffed up his chest.
An ostrich, the noblest of birds.
Sure, I said, nodding. A little lost for words, I handed the grappling gun out for Ignatius to take it. A glint entered his eyes. He scrambled out of the crate and pumped his little legs furiously to take it.
"'Tis a fine make,"
Ignatius said, running his hands over the gadget.
"I've heard that scavenger craft from humans is mostly rubbish, but perhaps I was wrong."
I ignored him. "And the crystal?"
Ah, yes. A moment.
He bounced over to the workbench and pulled out a pair of gleaming black tongs from a pouch at his belt. They were of a regular size, but looked giant in his hands. He caught my eye, his eyebrow cocked.
You'll be wondering how I'm able to carry so many possessions at once.
Not particularly.
A decompression chamber bag,
Ignatius said proudly.
Patented gnome technology it is.
Very clever, I said, feigning wonderment. In human terms, we just call that an inventory. With these tongs, Ignatius carefully reached through the static field. The sparks didn't bother him as they had me, and he grasped the crystal firmly between the metal prongs.
I'd like to see the look on Master Whizcrack's face if he knew I was doing this,
Ignatius said, with a barely concealed glee.
He's the sour old Burke I was sent to study under. Such a snore fest. And he thought gnomish technology could be mixed with the arcane if he deduced the exact formation of the crystalline structure of this gemstone.
He laughed as though I too was aware just how foolish this task was.
Although, I suppose we'll never get to see his reaction, on account of him being dead.
My opinion of the gnome was swinging on a pendulum with everything he uttered. At last, he brought the crystal fully out of the static field. I stepped forward, arms out, eyes fixed on the money. Ignatius opened the pouch on his belt and shoved the crystal inside. "What the hell are you doing?"
Call it insurance. Escort me to the walls. Once I'm safely there and able to escape, you'll get your payment.
"You little—" I bit down my choicest phrase.
Sneak.
I landed on, feeling it wouldn't piss him off too badly.
Oh, I'm flattered.
Ignatius said.
You've been very biddable, Zoran, I must say. Now, to the walls!
I couldn't leave yet. I still had upgrades to do, traps to make. I couldn't be sure I'd be able to come back here. "Hold on," I said, throwing out my arm. "I came here to upgrade my gear. Let me do that first, then we can be on our way." I could tell Ignatius was working himself up into a good grumble, so I cut him off. "All the better to defend you with, Your Highness." The gnome scratched his chin.
And how were you planning on paying for these materials? You weren't thinking of just freely looting the workshop, were you?
You know what? Yeah, I was. I'm a scavenger and everybody else is dead. My point felt less impressive with the bodies of the other gnomes despawned.
Ha! That's fine by me.
Ignatius chortled.
None of this is my stuff. Take what you like.
As though to make his point, he aimed the grappling gun at one of the oil lamps and pulled the trigger. The hook flew, knocked the lamp over to smash upon the floor, then he pressed a button on the gun to recoil the rope at speed back into its chamber.
Ah, you should have mentioned this earlier. I'll even help you. More optimal power to kill humans, these villains, is sound logic to me.
Chapter 27. After 20 minutes of crafting with Ignatius, I was assured of two things. First, he understood which traps and explosives were best suited for maximum pain. Second, I was well pleased we had developed a neutral alliance rather than hostility. I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of him. "Careful," I shouted. "These are explosives, you know."
Pish-posh,
Ignatius said, lobbing another gnomish landmine in my direction. I lunged for it, my hands swept clumsily through the air. I missed it. The mine clunked to the ground, then skidded into a table leg. My heart stopped. Ignatius winced and ducked. Nothing happened.
See?
The gnome said between parted fingers.
Nothing to worry about. Even if it had gone off, there would barely be any structural damage to the building.
And what about me?
Oh, you'd be toasted. Hence why I'm letting you have them to kill these villains. Fighting undead is a nasty business.
He shivered.
That, and you appear to be incapable of crafting anything better.
I was also assured of a third thing about Ignatius Brightspark. He really was a prick. With a weary sigh, I bent to collect the landmine. Gnomish landmine, item level 33, explodes when stepped on. Damage, 700 to 740 fire. Radius, 5 feet. One-time use. They seemed very powerful, even for their level, although I supposed a player had to be foolish enough to stand on them. I'd need to find a way to make that happen. They were also far more powerful than anything I could make at my current intelligence level. Placing this one in my inventory brought me up to 10 of them. While Ignatius had set about grabbing the choicest materials for himself, I'd cobbled together enough scraps to make better quality crossbow bolts, now with jagged arrowheads offering significantly better damage, along with more grenades and caltrops, fashioning the tier above those I had made for the ambush. Journeyman grenades, item level 20, explodes upon impact. Damage, 250 to 280 fire. Radius, 10 feet. Cooldown, 5 seconds. Crafting a dozen of these grenades had finally got me up to rank 5 in engineering, and I acquired my first crafting bonus. Engineering, rank 5. Materials required to craft items below your intelligence level reduced by 25%. Plus 5% power to engineering items you create. Looking over these perks, I was beginning to see the depth of the 100 Kingdoms profession system take shape. The better ranked someone was in a profession, the better the items they could make and with fewer materials. It made sense to a point, as a master blacksmith should be able to craft better swords than a novice. Many reviewers had praised the system in theory during the beta, and Frostbite indicated that the highest rank players would be able to create fully customizable equipment, its aesthetics, its stat allocation, everything. If someone wanted to become the best blacksmith or tailor in the game, they could do so by investing into it. Professions would have meaning and give players identity, and scavengers had access to so many. For a moment, I dreamt of being that player everyone came to for the best gear. As hard reality brought me back to the present, I was just grateful for the bump in power I might achieve for engineering items, although something told me this would be my last great spree. On that note, I'd also made upgraded versions of the caltrops. Steel caltrops were much like their lower-tier iron cousins, cheap to make, so I'd made 30 of those. Steel caltrops, item level 16, scatter spikes upon the ground to catch unwitting enemies. Damage, 80 to 95 piercing. Applications, 15 out of 15. Making these had also brought me up to rank 5 in blacksmithing, and the benefits had been the same as in engineering. All other ore had been set aside to allow for an upgrade of the crossbow, but I'd had one further stroke of inspiration from Ignatius. Back when I'd fought Gingy and the rogues, it had been a bit of a pain to manage potions and runes in the middle of combat. Even rearranging my inventory space to have the essentials near the top would still require time for me to open it, drag out what I wanted, and use it. Not to mention the impaired vision from the bag display while I did so. Precious moments in a fight could be life or death, and while normally it wouldn't matter so much, I needed every edge possible. Having watched Ignatius use his tool belt to great convenience, I'd decided to make one of my own. Well, more of a utility belt. I still had the burglar's sash I'd looted from the rogue Biterzog outside the Archmage's chambers. Rather than breaking it down for scraps, I strapped it over my right shoulder and bound a few mana potions, slime vials, and now my grenades onto the belt by using the heaps of spare wire that lay around the workshop. As far as my character sheet was concerned, I wasn't wearing the belt, just like there wasn't a bayonet on my crossbow. However, I'd be able to grab what I needed from my utility belt far easier now, although there was a risk of the vials smashing should I take a hit. I'd held back on adding rune pouches on there too, as I didn't want to risk losing them. Potions were one thing, slime I had in abundance, and grenades I might always make more of, but my runes were limited. Armed visibly to the teeth, I'd like to think I strutted an imposing figure, with the black leather sash over my oak-brown armor set and my head obscured by a dark cowl. Then people would see my level and class and laugh, but that would be their mistake. Oh, and my crossbow? I hadn't forgotten about that. I'd gained a lot of steel ore from breaking down the tools and other engineering components, namely cogs and fuses, but I'd needed to combine the majority of it together to make the mithril ore that was necessary for an upgrade to epic quality. To cap it all, my new rank in engineering would grant the new crossbow a plus 5% boost in its power. If only I had rolled as a gnome instead of a human, then I'd have gained another plus 5% power to engineering items just from the racial trait. Seeing how annoying Ignatius was, I may well have gone mad in that starting zone if I had opted to go that route. With nothing more to do, it was time to upgrade my weapon. I brought it out and noticed its durability was dangerously low at 8 out of 45. I suspected the rogue hacking at the frame during my last fight had caused this, but upgrading the item should make it good as new. So I went ahead and used tinkering. Success! Precise Shot has been upgraded to Deadly Shot level 23, plus 24 crafting experience, plus 79 engineering experience. Deadly Shot. Crossbow. Quality. Epic. Item level 23. Requires level 13 to equip. Damage 95 to 105 piercing. Durability 50 out of 50. Plus 3 might. Knockback chance 15% on hit. Attachment slots 1 out of 2. Mithril scope. Plus 10% chance to hit. This item is upgradable, but soulbound to you. It felt heavy, a solid, sturdy weapon. Upgrading it had repaired a heavy durability loss, and it looked pretty sick now, with a pristine white string, a sleek frame that had been reinforced by magically infusing metal into the wood itself, and a gleaming steampunk-looking scope on top. I'd reattached my makeshift bayonet as well, and I was certain that I would shred through level-appropriate mobs, if I had been fighting them. The main thing was the crossbow had a second attachment slot. Unfortunately, I needed an empty barrel chamber and a trigger to make a grenade launcher. I'd found no more flare guns, and these weren't components I could craft. Ellie had been right. With a heavy sigh, I sheathed the crossbow.
What's the matter?
Ignatius asked, his tone being one of annoyance rather than curiosity. I'd hoped to make a grenade launcher attachment for my crossbow, but I can't find the parts here, and I can't make them either.
Do you require it?
Well, I guess not. I can still throw my grenades after all. It's just, well, a friend of mine very much wanted me to make it. She always suggests what's best for me. Ignatius absorbed this moment of emotion from me and looked as though he might be sick. But it's also because a grenade launcher would be so freaking cool. Ignatius nodded knowingly, then he raised a finger and his green hair stood on end. I could almost see the light bulb hovering above his head.
Tell you what, Zoran, you can have my launcher.
He rummaged inside his decompression pouch and pulled out what appeared to be a miniature cannon. It grew rapidly in his hand, enlarging into a large brass barrel with a fat clip beneath to hold grenades. Emblazoned onto the brass were the words, "Hands off. Property of His Royal Highness, Prince Ignatius Brightspark." My jaw dropped. You just have one lying around?
Sure,
Ignatius said, as though it were as natural as having forks in the cutlery drawer.
I might be a mecha rider at heart, but what self-respecting gnomish engineer doesn't have his own modified grenade launcher? Come on, human! Use your noggin!
He held the launcher out for me. Fully expecting some trickery or prank, I cautiously approached him, keeping an eye on his face for signs of a hoax. But there was none. In fact, he seemed genuinely pleased with the idea of my having his own item. I took it, turning it over a few times, and inspected it. Ignatius's Fury, grenade launcher. Item level 40. Can be attached to rifles or crossbows. Adds a kick to all grenades launched from it, increasing blast radius and damage dealt by 20%. The range that grenades can be thrown is greatly increased. I wondered if the gnome had named the weapon himself. I reckoned he had, and this thought made me smile. There and then, I decided a fourth thing about Ignatius Brightspark. He wasn't such a bad egg after all. "Thank you," I said, still half expecting him to take it back. "Truly, thank you. This will be a huge help."
Oh, it was nothing. You need every edge you can get, you squishy scavenger. I wouldn't normally grant such gifts, but you seem quite serious about fighting these intruders, and I'm impressed. You're extremely brave, Zoran, or utterly idiotic, and I admire both. Besides, I've been thinking of building a new one anyway.
He waved me off as though it were nothing, but I could tell this pained him a little, and must have taken quite a lot to make him part with it. I assumed that few other players would ever receive such treatment. Considering he was an NPC off the beaten track, I wondered if anyone had encountered him before now. "Well, it's a real help," I assured him. "I'll attach it to my crossbow and see how it looks." Before doing anything else, I unwrapped the bayonet, placing the dagger and silk wire carefully to one side. Turned out I needed my blowtorch in order to weld the launcher in place, so I had to use another fire rune to power it. I still had 11 of those to spare, and the boost to my grenades was well worth the exchange of a single rune. Blowtorch and hammer in hand, I began attaching the launcher. Once done, I thought enough was enough on the upgrades for now. My crossbow was beginning to have more text on it than an airport departure board. Deadly shot, crossbow, quality, epic, item level 23, Requires level 13 to equip. Damage 95 to 105 piercing. Durability 50 out of 50. Plus 3 might. Knockback chance 15% on hit. Attachment slots 2 out of 2. Mithril scope. Ignatius's Fury. Plus 10% chance to hit. Plus 20% radius and damage to launched grenades. This item is upgradable, but is soulbound to you. Aesthetically, the launcher sat under the frame and close to the handle where a secondary trigger had appeared. I assumed that by leveling the crossbow up and pulling the new trigger, I'd fire whichever grenade was inside the barrel. Not wanting to waste one of my actual journeyman grenades, I looked around for something grenade-shaped to test on. Coming up short, I took a vial of slime and shoved that down the barrel instead. I still had plenty of those to spare, and it would be useful to find out whether I could launch my secret weapon a great distance as well. Bracing my feet, I aimed upwards. Unlike before, a small target area appeared at the other end of the workshop with a dotted line tracking the flight path of what I'd been firing from the launcher, which was a sweet addition. Otherwise, aiming it properly would be little better than shooting from the hip in the dark. I pulled the second trigger. The launcher boomed and out flew the vial of slime. It soared along its predicted path to shatter against the ectoplasm extraction unit. Turns out I could launch slime from it, and I intended to put that to good use.
I hope you plan on firing more than bottled boogers from my baby,
Ignatius said. He frowned, perhaps second-guessing his decision. Don't worry. I'm planning on raining all manner of hell on the intruders.
That's what I like to hear. And now, if you're feeling suitably geared up, I'd like to be escorted to the walls.
I bit my lip, casting another glance around the room by way of stalling. I'd rather not venture out into the Spire without Ellie, but she'd not even crackled since leaving. She'd been gone a worryingly long time. That aside, I still needed the crystal that Ignatius was holding to ransom one way or another. It was worth too much money to pass up. On top of that, I still had over an hour and a half until Cryptic would be ready with the poison. Ignatius cleared his throat loudly.
Maybe I ought to be clearer. You will take me to the walls right now. We've tarried long enough.
You're right, I said. Let's go. We left the workshop together, Ignatius leading the way to the palace grounds through a servant's staircase. I just hoped Ellie would come back to me soon.